Oh my gosh. Welcome back, bro. Welcome back to the DomCast. Almost a year to the date that I started uploading it on YouTube, I believe, on this channel. Welcome back to the DomCast on this channel and Spotify and Apple Music. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I honestly don't know if I remember how to podcast. After I render this file, I'm gonna all the logistics, whatever, all that boring stuff. It really doesn't matter to you. If you're still around, I appreciate you. Life is just so much different these days, and that's why I felt it was a good time to bring this back. I don't think I've done one since the playoffs last year, probably. It's an interesting time to stop, right? A basketball podcast stopping around the playoffs. But if you were here on this channel, you remember specifically I started doing a lot of barbershop talks because that was a lot easier than waiting a week for the playoffs to end, and the playoff week to end, and then doing a podcast on everything. It's like some of that stuff just needed a video right then, and that's kind of how barbershop talks took place of the podcast. But also now barbershop talks are damn near the main video on my main channel. If you go back and look what I've done for the last 2 months, those topics are basically things that would have been barbershop talks, except now they just have my face in them and a little bit of art. So I haven't done barbershop talks here, and so I'm like, okay, podcast time. Time for the podcast to return. Also, just because now I work so closely with the NBA. I host a show for them on Twitch. I host a G League show for them on YouTube, which I hope they move to Twitch, because I whatever. That's also logistic stuff. Yeah, because of those things, I follow more basketball than I have ever, even while I've been on NBA YouTube, because I'd never kept up with the G League. Now I keep up with the G League. In some shape, way, or form, I keep up with all 30 teams and all 27, I believe, in the G League. So 30 teams in the NBA, 27 in the G League. And as I was writing down topics for this podcast, I was like, yo, this is extensive. This is more extensive than any of the podcasts last year. Maybe it's just because I'm back now. There's the first episode. Maybe next week I'll have nothing to talk about. But we're not going to know that until then, are we? Well, there goes a little spiel. You know where I've been. You know what I'm doing. I don't talk a lot about the extra things I do. Normally I just make one post and then go about my business. The NBA is like, hey, come do this for us. And then I tell everyone on Twitter or whatever, hey, I'm doing this. And I just don't really mention it again. So if you're wondering, now you know. Anyways, like I said, podcast list is pretty long today. So let's go ahead and get to it. Might be a long episode. Maybe I'll just burn through all the topics pretty quickly. And I hope next week I still have stuff to talk about, because this is the first one and we're in November. It's just, man, there's so much happening in the NBA's 75th season. NBA year 75. Feel free in the comments. I don't know if you, obviously you can't if you're listening to this on Spotify, but if you're on YouTube, what season is this for you? I remember asking this question on Twitch. A lot of people, I've realized, started watching in the 2010s. I'm like, oh, that's nice. In some shape or form, I've been watching since 2003, but I really started keeping up in around 07, 08, around that time. So got around 13 seasons in. But if you want to stretch it, you can say I've gotten close to 20. I like to stretch it and say close to 20. I think that works good for the credibility. I think. There's so much going on. There's parity in the NBA right now. There's a great rookie class. Our stars are at the absolute peak of their powers. Well, a lot of them anyways. Speaking of Curry, Kevin Durant, Jokic, Giannis. Of course, LeBron James is, for the first time ever, starting to look human because of injuries. So that is sad. That is sad, and it's also just a swift reminder that Father Time does not lose. But we'll be talking about the Lakers on here, as well as a million other teams. There's just competitive games damn near every single night. It's rare that there's a night where there's not something that you really wish you would have seen. Well, speaking of you, if you don't, like people who just casually keep up with the NBA. Not to call you casuals. You get it, right? I watch it for a job. Some people just kind of like, oh, I saw some highlights last night. Well, you understand. Yeah, but there's so many cool things happening. And I guess that will lead me into talking about the Golden State Warriors, because that's one of the cool things that are happening. Even from a story perspective, it's one of the cooler things that's happening. Kind of thinking from as a matter of fact, never mind. I was about to talk about a video idea, but I forgot. I've absolutely put things out there before and watched them be uploaded shamelessly to other channels, so I won't do that. Golden State Warriors. We are off to a great start. So what's happened in Golden State over the last couple of years? Everything fell apart in the year 2019. Kevin Durant got hurt. Klay Thompson tore his ACL right at the end of a series that they might have won if he stayed healthy. I didn't realize that injury happened and then in the third quarter. So they had to go a whole quarter with Curry just basically being boxed, which was a, what's the word I'm looking for? It was a, wow, I am blanking on the word. It was similar to something we would see in the year 2021 because he didn't play in 2020. So in the 2021 season, God, time is going so fast, I forget we're in the 2022 year. So last year was the 2021 season, and we watched Curry basically have to play in a phone booth and still, what was it, did he still average an efficient 30-something? Probably. Those are just Curry things, right? Everything falls apart in 2019, Kevin Durant leaves. We understand because Klay Thompson is out that it's basically going to be a lost year for the Warriors in 2020. Well, we didn't actually know, but we assumed, and then Curry got hurt, so it was definitely a lost year. Corona happened, the bubble happened. Come to the year 2021, you've got Steph Curry back once again without Klay Thompson because now he tore his Achilles after rehabbing, which is just brutal. So he's got to play with Draymond Green, who doesn't want to look at the basket, and a lot of guys who maybe aren't ready to help contend yet. I don't want to say not ready to compete in the NBA, but definitely not ready to play in the Warriors offense. Let's put it that way. And still just narrowly missed the playoffs, just very narrowly missed it. And you get to 2021, and look at the additions they made. There's some additions that they made this summer where I said, hey, that's kind of important. You know what? Not even some additions. Let's just talk about, first off, Iguodala. That was the addition. I mentioned him in a video or something. Maybe it was even on Twitch, and it sticks in my head because somebody said very plainly, oh, you're talking about Iguodala in 2021. And I'm like, yeah. Because he's played in the Warriors system before. He knows how to play with this team. It's just an IQ thing. It's not that he's Iggy from the Sixers or even Iggy that won Finals MVP. It's just he knows his system and he's not washed as an athlete yet. So if you're actually watching Warriors basketball, you see that's happening in real time. He knows how to swing the ball. He knows where to be. Great understanding of angles. And that's just one of the things that's working out for the Warriors. So he's there. You don't even have to bring up stats to bring up Iggy's impact. He has been important for them. If you watch the games, he has been important for how the ball moves. Also important for how the ball moves. Bielitsa. This is a stretch five who a lot of people are discovering for the first time can also pass and can put the ball on the floor. I saw that on day one against the Lakers, and I made a video about it immediately. I made a Bielitsa video. And I don't know if people thought I was overreacting, but my main point was, hey, the Golden State Warriors just added a versatile big man. Say that again, a versatile big man. So you have that in Draymond, but obviously, excuse me, with Draymond, you don't necessarily always have the shot. More times these days, more times than not, you don't have the shot. So you had a versatile shooting big man. They can put the ball on the floor if he needs to. And I looked at that and said, damn, that's crazy. And so far, damn, that's been crazy. You had Jordan Poole. You had Jordan Poole's production. Off the top of my head, I believe he averaged 12 points a game last year. Now he's up to 18 last time I checked. So that's the biggest thing that's happened for the Warriors. That's the single biggest thing. So what you get in Jordan Poole is another point of attack with the basketball, which the Warriors rarely have outside of the Kevin Durant era. So what I was trying to make people understand is 2015, 2016, you've got Curry and you've got great ball movement and you've got Klay Thompson running off screens. And I will even say over time, Klay Thompson got better like in the post and being able to actually do things with the ball, but a lot of the times he didn't need to. Then you added Kevin Durant, and aside from it being Kevin Durant, I think the big deal was, hey, now somebody full-time can also create with the ball like Steph can. He can just make magic. Because Klay Thompson's not at his best when he's trying to make magic with the basketball. He's at his best when he runs around. So you get what I'm saying. Point of attack with the basketball. So you had that with KD. I really feel like that's one of the only times you had that consistently outside of Curry. And so you had Jordan Poole, and maybe it's still developing, but it is so cool to watch because he is a good finisher. It's a good shooter. And they don't even have Klay Thompson yet. So when I watch the Warriors right now, I'm watching Poole basically be the number 2 offensive guy. I'm going to look it up right now. But off the top of my head, I would say on the 2022 Warriors, he has to be the second leading scorer. Yeah, of course he is. Draymond is not your second leading scorer. So No, not scheduling result. Why do they make it so hard when you go on basketball? Reference to Google. Okay, cool. So he's averaging 17.5 points a game. Wow. So now only 0.3 of a point above Wiggins. Wiggins. The Wiggins propaganda paid off. If you followed me on Twitter last year, you saw me tweeting about it. He is having a good season for himself because he doesn't have to do too much. If you remember when I talked about the Warriors and I thought they were going to be healthy last season, I spoke of Wiggins highly because obviously he didn't reach his #1 pick potential and reach that Hall of Fame career. But with his athleticism, with his defense, with the tools, I said, hey, this Warriors team where the pressure isn't going to be that high, this can be a great thing. Showed flashes last year, but obviously without Klay Thompson, I think you would have to lean on him and maybe get him doing some things he's probably not comfortable with this year. You don't have to do that. And look at it, baby. It is going great. What are we looking at with the effective field goal percentage at 52%, 46% regularly from the field, only 32% from three. It's not anything spectacular, but once again, doesn't need to be. Does not need to be. All Wiggins needs to do on both sides of the ball is what he's doing right now. But anyways, this was a Jordan Poole conversation. I just didn't realize how close they were in scoring together. So Wiggins 17, Jordan Poole 17. Consistent threat off the ball. The development has happened so quickly, which is something that I don't think we really, well, at least I didn't expect coming into this year. So when I saw Klay Thompson wasn't going to come back till around Christmas, which I don't know right now, I don't know. I'm not even going to put a timetable on it. When I saw that wasn't happening, I was saying, damn, the Warriors will probably be good this year and they're going to get him back, God willing, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how great they're going to start. And then Poole was already taking steps. He's been taking steps in his career. And now he's taking an even bigger one. And so the Warriors have smart players. They have great defenders. Shout out to Gary Payton, too, who we actually interviewed on the G League show, by the way. Again, I told you, I don't be saying shit. I just do shit that I put out one tweet and I don't ever say anything else. Like, yeah, we interviewed Gary Payton. It was awesome. I asked him about whatever. We'll talk about that at the end, actually, because we have a G League section coming up too. Gary Payton's energy has been crazy, though. If you're actually watching Warriors games, he's not a guy you look at the stat box for. And even if you do, you can see the help. Even he averages 6 points a game, which probably breaks down to 3 dunks that you didn't know he could do because you didn't watch him in college. And you didn't watch him in the G League when he was there, which I didn't. Like, I'm not shaming you. I absolutely did not. Before we interviewed him, I went to look up Gary Payton, just his career stuff, and I started seeing, damn, bro, he has legitimately been flying this whole time, but nobody pays attention because he's one of the basketball player's sons. He has a last name Payton, and you say, oh, when a basketball player has a son like that, or a basketball legend has a son, and you rarely hear of him, he's probably not that good. Well, he's found a home. He's found a home, and he's getting legitimate minutes in Golden State, playing about 13 minutes a game right now. It feels like he's good for at least one terrific on-ball steal a game. I'm not talking about just reading passing lanes. I'm talking pickpocket. He had 2 on Ish Smith in one night. Think he thieved DeMar DeRozan. It's straight up like the guy's just dribbling, trying to get to a spot, and Payton is so quick and strong, he just knocks it away. And the crowd cheers for that as loud as you can hear any crowd cheering for defense. He makes it fun to watch. He's also a high IQ player, so in the scheme of Golden State cutting and running back doors or making that extra pass to the next man, he fits right into that. So Payton has been a guy who wasn't, to my understanding, was not even actually going to be on the team. I think it was Avery Bradley. Don't quote me on this, but it felt like I read somewhere that he was actually cut, and then the Bradley thing happened, but then they didn't want Bradley and they got him back. Imagine that, right? Imagine it being Avery Bradley instead of Payton. So Payton's been awesome for them. You got Otto Porter. I'm not going to go into the Wilt Chamberlain bit. You've got Otto Porter, who I've watched them play at the 5 this year. And then somebody will bring up the fact, oh, Otto Porter is 6'8". That's not that crazy. Yeah, that's just crazy. That's crazy because Otto Porter, when you look at Otto Porter, you don't think center. You think small forward. I saw him play the 5. And he can stretch the floor, obviously. He's shooting 45%, 46% from 3 on 3 attempts this year. So I've gone through a lot of the important names here. GTA, Juan Toscano, obviously just another guy to plug in. The Kuminga is not playing a whole lot yet. Yeah, he's kind of in between the G League at the moment too. Look, man, I've done all this without actually talking about Steph Curry, right? I don't even think I got off everything I wanted to about Jordan Poole, but you get the point. Especially if you're watching the Warriors, you get the point. I just went through everything I like about the Warriors right now without mentioning the name Steph, who at this specific moment on 11/14/2021 at 10 a.m., he's leading the MVP race. That's just what's happening. I'm sorry if you thought it was over. Sorry if you thought you didn't have to deal with it anymore. That's kind of where I was going with this at the beginning, right? The Golden Dynasty just kind of abruptly took a break because of injuries, and all of a sudden we pick back up here, and they're healthy and they have some smart players, and it looks exactly like it always has. And that's kind of why with this 11-1 start, I've been telling people, hey, it's not. Well, first of all, you should not be questioning if Golden State is a good team, in my opinion. If you're like, oh, damn, is Golden State actually good? Well, if that's a question that pops up, I don't think you've seen them that much. But also, they're not a team that needs to prove themselves. When Curry and at least Curry and Draymond Green, when they have decent players on the floor with them, they look great. They play beautiful basketball. Draymond Green is a top passer in the league. Curry moves off the ball better than damn near anybody in NBA history. And they have smart, good players. It's always looked like this. Every single time. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It always looks like this. So this 2021, this start of the 2022 season looks like it always had. This looks like the Golden Dynasty. That's why I say, okay, yeah, maybe in this 12-game stretch they hadn't played anybody. But then they played the Hawks, who were in the conference finals. They're not off to a good start this season at all. Jeez, they are looking crazy in the light right now. But okay, they knocked them off. Lose to the Grizzlies. You can argue that's one of the only decent teams they played. But then they go and beat the Bulls. Bulls did not have Vooch, but I would also argue that having Vooch on the floor defensively might have been a worse situation the other night when they played the Warriors. Either way, none of that stops Curry from putting up 40. He's averaging 28 points a game this year, giving you 6 assists, 6 rebounds, damn near 2 steals right now. 45% from the field, which I'm just gonna assume it's probably gonna go up, because in the last 3 games he's been really good. Then 40% from 3, which will also probably go up. None of these are his best marks, but through the last 3 games, I don't know if I bookmarked the tweet, he's averaging like an efficient 38 or something. So it's super Steph. What's amazing is at the beginning of last year, he struggled through the first couple of games, and he did not have Klay Thompson. It was the first time we'd legitimately seen him without Klay, and a lot of people jumped the gun. Kind of like how they've done with Harden this year. If you go back and watch my Harden video, I bet you, the one that I made probably 2 weeks ago, I bet you there's some comments saying, oh, you feel stupid now or something. When if you actually watch the video, I 1000% said that he wasn't in shape and that he was probably going to be in shape, and I wanted to see what that looked like without the foul calls. But that's another thing. We'll get to the Nets. Beginning of last season, they took it and said, oh, damn, we're watching him without Klay. He looks mad average. And he was having to play out of a phone booth, and Lillard said what he said, and then that was basically it. After that, Super Steph turned on, and we realized, well, not even just we, like a lot of y'all realized, this is not just one of the greatest shooters of all time when he's on a good team. This is not bad. I'm tripping. This is the greatest shooter of all time by miles. It's one of the greatest players of all time. Has a legitimate chance to finish top 10. If you were just talking pure basketball playing, he might already be top 10. Not talking about accomplishments, just pure basketball playing, he might be in that list already. So you love to see it. He's 33 years old. Barring injury, it looks like he could keep going for quite some time, and I hope he does, because it's the best show on earth, man. It is the best show on earth, but I don't need to rave about half-court shots and ridiculous off the dribble pull-ups from the hash. We all watch the man, right? I don't need to go in and rave about that. On the show we do on Twitch, somebody comes on and does it every week, so yeah, you can find that there. Golden State right now is going great, and then you're gonna add Klay Thompson to this mix, so it's getting kind of tough not to start to maybe jump the gun and extrapolate this and look out and say, okay, you throw Klay into this, now all of a sudden, once again, it's Steph, Klay, and Dre, and Iggy, by the way. And it's getting hard not to look at this and say, man, it's going to look like it always has when these 3 play together and they have good teammates. Because Klay Thompson, because of Jordan Poole, to wrap that section up, he does not have to do nearly as much as we thought he was going to have to do. Defensively, they just need him not to be a negative off of the ACL and Achilles, because I'm not discounting that. Those are 2 of the most brutal injuries you can have together. I cannot imagine him coming back the same defender, but hey, I would have told you I don't know about Kevin Durant coming off the Achilles. So, I mean, that's one thing, but an Achilles and ACL, I feel like that has to affect something. If it doesn't, then I guess we're just at a certain place with sports science. Because KD is also fighting for MVP, and we don't even talk about the Achilles injury he had anymore. He doesn't even really rest. It's crazy. But if Klay Thompson can come back and just be decent on defense, offense is going to take care of itself because he's going to get open shots. If he still knows how to run around, if he still knows how to be in a certain spot, just the threat of him is enough to put this Warriors team over the top. Just the threat. Like, just imagine him sitting in the corner, which he's going to do more than that. But just him sitting in the corner puts this team over the top. Golden State's going to be hard to beat this year, man. Golden State is back. They are going to be hard to beat if they're healthy, if they can stay healthy. And sure, you could say you want to see them against some better teams because the Bulls did push them until the third quarter Warriors happened. If you look at the score, you don't know, but the Bulls were actually leading at the beginning there, and it was starting to look like, oh damn, what happens when the Warriors play good teams? And then Steph happened. Gosh, man, it's crazy to watch. Having seen the whole Golden Dynasty, it's a crazy story from how they came to be to the Kevin Durant era to this 2-year hiatus to coming right back. It's been crazy, bro. It's been crazy. And I love what's going on in Golden State. And they are currently, I believe, the best team in the NBA record-wise. And if you actually watch them, they're playing the best basketball. That's what I'm trying to basically get out with mentioning the team strength. Just watch them play. They're playing the best basketball. They have the best ball movement. They have the third quarter Warriors are a thing again. Their defense is just strapping sometimes. A lot of the times, hell. Most of the times. Golden State, man. That's pretty much what I have to say about there. And when we talk about the MVPs, I've already spoiled it for you. Curry, right now, is leading, but it's way too early. It's way too early. It's 13 games. It's way too early. Moving on from the Golden State Warriors. That might as well take us into the Nets because Kevin Durant, ex-Warrior, just a lot of things have happened there since we last talked about them on a podcast. They'll be playing on Tuesday. Nets and Warriors is going to be a shit show on Twitter on Tuesday, so I am 1000% looking forward to that. Okay, the Brooklyn Nets. Well, first, if you were talking about them, I'm sorry, y'all, but I should have had the standings up just as a reference. So, the Brooklyn Nets are actually currently second in the Eastern Conference, 9-4. Harden has not been in shape up until recently. You have to excuse me for clearing my throat periodically. I told you I'm not in shape. I'm not in shape myself right now, podcast wise. I haven't talked this long in a while. So they're 9-4. Kevin Durant's been, if not the best player in basketball, the second best. I say Curry is leading right now because he is. His team is only, they could be undefeated, and he's ramping up pretty rapidly, so he's leading that race, but you could still make the argument Kevin Durant's been the best player. Hell, you could argue Jokic has been the best player. There's a lot of ways that goes. I guess we'll get to that. And they've been missing Kyrie. So this basically confirms what we thought. If the Brooklyn Nets had Kyrie Irving, they would comfortably probably be atop the East right now. They would probably comfortably still be the best team in the NBA, even with the Golden State Warriors being what they are. We saw a flash of it. The little flashes we got to see of Kyrie, Harden, and KD on the same floor, especially this year because they would probably be better defensively. I don't think anything would be touching that. That would just be super team. It would be a super team, but it's not. So I made videos about Kyrie Irving on the main channel. I really don't need to spend the whole time talking about. It's old news, right? He disappeared into the abyss. I don't believe he's getting vaccinated because we've heard nothing about him. And if he did get vaxxed at this point, it would look crazy. After he's taken all these stances and posted the Matrix on his Instagram and all this spiritual stuff, it would look crazy if he just backtracked and got vaxxed now. So I don't see it happening. So let's work with what we have. You've got James Harden, who was clearly affected by the foul rule, but also by him not being in shape. And I took great care to speak about that in the video because I was not making a video saying Harden is trash without free throws. And anybody who watched it would know that. If you watched him from beginning to end, that's absolutely what you saw. I said he's not as explosive. At the time when I made the video, I said he's not as explosive. He's not making the same moves. He's not as aggressive. Clearly, he did not really get to train this summer after the injury, and it's showing. He's slowly working himself back into shape. Believe he had his best game the other night against the Pelicans, so take that for what you will. But once again, just like how when I say I watch the Warriors play certain teams, it's about the things that I see them do that makes me believe in them. And so Harden did admittedly look better. Just physically, he looked better against the Pelicans. And he's not getting the same calls if you were to look, because we've now, a couple of games have passed since I have made that video. Well, really, a lot of games have passed. He is, okay, so he's up to 5 free throw attempts a game now. That's up from the 3, I think, when I made that vid. Still lower than his 7 from last year and a lot lower than his 11. Oh my gosh, yeah, all his double-digit years that if you just look at all the years before he came to the Nets when he was the main guy, yeah, shooting 10, 11 free throws a game. He's only averaging 20 points right now. Still 42% from the field. So overall, not great for him. But it's slowly coming along, right? And I make a big deal of that because without Kyrie Irving, and we talked about this on Twitch a little bit, I was trying to tell people, man, this Nets team it's not amazing without Kyrie because it was built to have 3 superstars. And so right off rip, that sounds like an excuse, which I have no interest in doing for Brooklyn because I didn't support their super team anyways, and I'm not a fan. But without Kyrie, all of a sudden you're like, hey, Blake Griffin, who we signed last year as just kind of a tag along to come do a little bit. We need you to be the starting center. And we need you to actually provide. And hey, LaMarcus Aldridge, who also came here last year to just kind of hit some open mid-range shots. So we actually need your production now. And to their credit, both of them have stepped into the roles pretty nicely. LaMarcus Aldridge, you watch him sometimes. The game they had against Chicago, they lost, but he looked, I'm not going to say he looked like Portland Aldridge, but from the midi, he looked like Portland Aldridge. He really did. Shout out to that outlet that once upon a time said LaMarcus Aldridge has an underrated mid-range game. That still has me baffled 2 years later. But yes, LaMarcus Aldridge has looked great at times, and he hasn't looked horrible at defense, and the Nets have not looked horrible at defense. Not horrible, which when they had Kyrie, you were saying that's all they need to be, is not horrible. But so when you're asking guys who were just supposed to be kind of like tag along guys who were going to have open shots because there were 3 of the superstars on the floor, now you're asking them to play legitimate roles, and they're not great players anymore. I'm like, hey, all of a sudden this all looks interesting because they can be beaten. In a playoff series, they could be beaten. They could be defeated by a physical Miami team, or they could be defeated again by a Bucks team if they ever get healthy, which is, we'll get to Milwaukee. But KD is through this part of the season, this little beginning part, I don't want to say he's carried them, but I think he's shooting like 70% in ISO situations or something, which matches the eye test if you're watching. There's just a lot of times where there's simply nothing the defense can do or could have done. They stay with him, and then he just shoots over them. That's the story of Kevin Durant. It looks like 2014 KD, which again, I will never let y'all forget it's off of an Achilles, because we have forgotten, and it's just insanity. Since Kyrie is not coming back, the team can only go as far as Harden can help them get. Because at the end of the day, we have seen KD be KD before. We saw it in Milwaukee, in the Milwaukee series last year. They were a toenail away from beating them. And a lot of that had to do with Kevin Durant heroics, because Harden was out there dragging one leg around. So you can't go that far in that situation. But since Harden is healthy, maybe he's still not going to get the same free throws he got, but he at very least has to be able to bend defenses, right? He's got to be able to get downhill. He's got to be able to knock down those step back shots, which would otherwise for anybody else be terrible shots. And when Harden isn't healthy, they're probably terrible shots. But yeah, he's got to be able to give you all of those things. And then when you get that, it solves a lot of the issues, because now it doesn't look so bad when KD's not on the floor. On those stretches where they're not on the floor together, it's not like you have Kyrie anymore to make it a duo. That was the crazy thing last year, is you always had a duo no matter what at some point in the game, which in my opinion would have made them pretty unbeatable. It's still very difficult to imagine when it comes together this season that at one point you'll have KD and Harden together, then You'll have KD in the bench, and if KD goes to sit, you'll just have Harden in the bench. That's still very, very difficult for opposing teams, and that's a luxury that a lot of them do not have, because it's two guys that are Hall of Fame points of attack with the basketball. You have to guard it all game. That's a 48-minute thing. Once it's healthy, once they're healthy, and once Harden is in full shape. So, in other words, Brooklyn is fine. I know people were panicking at the beginning of the season. They weren't starting off great. It didn't look great. And that's why I was just saying, let's just give it 20 games. Let's just let James Harden knock off the rust and the injury. Just let him shake that off, and then let's judge it. Let's not get crazy. But I do stand by. I do think the roster outside of them is, again, when you have super teams, the supporting cast is always kind of sus. It's pieces that otherwise you wouldn't really be expecting much from. And so that's mostly a Paul Millsap, Blake, and LaMarcus Aldridge thing. I've liked Patty Mills this season, who started off not being able to miss. You got Patty Mills, you got DeAndre Bembry coming off, playing great defense for the squad. I think as of last week, his matchups were shooting a very low percentage against him. I don't have the number on me. I need to pay for Twitter Blue so I can organize my bookmarks, because I bookmark things like these and then I realize, hey, I can't scroll back to everything I bookmarked. But it's going to be interesting. I still think, I still pretty much stand by the only teams that I worry about them in the East beating in a series is probably still Miami and the Bucks. And the Bucks if they get healthy. It might sound like I'm leaving Chicago out, especially when they just beat them the other night. But I think over the course of a playoff series, I don't think their defense would hold up. We're way far out from talking about playoff matchups right now. No, there's not many more Brooklyn Nets thoughts to have. You know, what you see with the Kevin Durant and James Harden team is what you're probably going to get. We've delved into the Kyrie drama. Hey, Warriors, Nets, Tuesday on TNT. Be there, because I know you won't be there for Philly and Utah without Joel Embiid. Which I could probably fit a Sixers note in here, to be honest. It's just unfortunate, because I also made a Ben Simmons video. That was kind of how I came off my little break there. And Philadelphia has been doing good. And then you get hit with the COVID BS. I think that's what Tobias Harris was dealing with. And then Embiid happened with him. Here we are in the 2022 season, in our third COVID season, and it's still having effects. Philly started off 8-1, I believe, and now they're, or what was it, 8-3? They had a good record. Now they're 8-6. They've lost 4. They've lost their games without Embiid. No surprises there. Even though Tyrese Maxey has absolutely been a positive for them, 2 straight 30-point games. Seth Curry is having his best season. It looked good because Ben Simmons, even though you take away his defense, I would say that they're doing better. They were doing better than I thought they were going to do without him. I was saying, damn, you can't just take away that level of defense and be the same. But I think it had actually evened out as some guys are having their best offensive season, and Embiid has got all that space. And right the day that Embiid went out, that he was announced out for 10 days, I had started to say, man, Philly should probably figure this Simmons thing out as quickly as possible, because now you guys are winning, you're doing better. Even though they hadn't really played, I think the Bulls were the only impressive wins on the schedule. Still, the team itself, again, just watching them, they looked good, and the space looked good. And I was kind of thinking, do you want to throw Simmons back onto this? Because you know that's not a winning formula. Go back to my old podcast. I had already said Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid were not a championship duo. They're not going to win a championship together. I don't think there's a reason for him to play for Philly again. And as much as I don't want a player to be able to just force their way out, I also think Philly, this is a move that's pretty much overdue, is getting Simmons out of there for somebody who fits with Embiid, or at very least choosing between Embiid and Simmons. So I don't support what he'd done in trying to force a trade with 4 years left on his contract, but I also think Philly should want this too. Philly should want it, and Simmons should want it. So that is, we don't have to spend too much time talking about the Ben Simmons situation, because it's gotten into dark territory. It's mental health is now a part of it, and Philly finding him so that he could actually prove that he's working on his mental health. That whole thing has just became so murky. And I already at the beginning of the season could not have imagined Ben Simmons playing for or in front of that Philadelphia crowd. And it's only gotten progressively worse since then. I seriously cannot imagine him ever playing in front of that home crowd. I just can't. That doesn't seem like it's a good situation for anybody. But Daryl Morey, the last we heard, said he was not going to force this. He was going to take his time. But once again, Tyrese Maxey, let's see the season he can have. Seth Curry, let's see the season he can have. Tobias Harris, let's see the seasons that they can have in spacing this floor for Embiid and specifically Maxey at the point guard position, being a great point of attack that does not clog Embiid's space. Let's see how that works. And then also not put Ben Simmons back in that situation and put a toxic situation in there and then give us results on the court that we already know are going to happen because they've happened the last few seasons. But I get it. I get it from Philly's point of view, because what can you really cash him for at this specific moment? A Celtics trade was floated. A Boston Celtics trade was floated with Jaylen Brown. I had already said I think Jaylen Brown will be traded one day, but I don't know if it's going to be for Ben Simmons. And of course, I'm the Celtics fan, so everybody's like, hey, Dom, what do you think about your team potentially getting Ben Simmons? And it's crazy because me and my brother's only, since I was last year doing barbershop talks, my brother's only gotten more into basketball. So the day that news came out, even before it came out, I had told him, I had floated the idea out there. We were just talking about Simmons, and I was like, yeah, I could see Simmons being a part of the Celtics somehow. And then a couple hours later, we got the notification. I didn't necessarily have Jaylen Brown in that equation, but the way Daryl Morey is playing ball right now, it would have to include Jaylen Brown, if not a third team. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the podcast topics, honestly, on the graphic, because I'm just kind of going from team to team. There's so much to cover. I'm not really spending too much time in one place, because that does really bring us right to Boston. Brown has been out with a hamstring. The Celtics have not looked great with or without him. Took a loss to Cleveland last night. Jason Tatum has not been great this season. Dennis Schroeder has been pretty good for them for the amount of money that they're paying him. But overall, as a team, the Boston Celtics are far away from a championship team at this specific moment. And I knew that coming into the year. That's why I always said, you will never hurt me on Twitter talking about the Celtics being bad, because I didn't have expectations for them to begin with. It's much easier to stomach a season for your team when you don't have great expectations. So I'm like, oh, if I talk about the Lakers or I talk about another team, and you're like, oh, but your Celtics suck. I'm like, well, yeah. Our roster doesn't look that much different than it did in 2020. It just looks less clear now. Like, we're trying to give, at the start of the season, we're trying to give Marcus Smart full-time point guard duties, which I never thought was a good idea. When we signed Dennis Schroeder, I said somewhere, whether it was a stream or a barbershop talk, wherever I said it, I was like, hey, I kind of think Schroeder should be the starting point guard, because I don't think Marcus Smart is a full-time starting point guard. I feel pretty accurate in that assessment at the moment. But their bench is not great, and the team makeup itself, it revolves around two guys who are gonna go and get you buckets on the wing. It's not versatile enough. I never like that type of setup. Like, if you're gonna have it, I like it to be a point guard and a wing guy, or a wing guy and a center, or a wing guy and a forward. But two wing guys who just both are gonna ISO and take mid-range jumpers and maybe slash, who are gonna do that. It's the name for them that I saw that I liked is the Bucket Brothers, because that's really what it is. It's the Bucket Brothers, but it doesn't necessarily, with the roster that's on the floor, lead to wins. And the problem is, because it's not to sit here and say Tatum and Brown could not be a championship duo. The problem is, I don't think that this Celtics team can get there in a timely manner. Being with their bench being what it is, and the players around them and the money being what it is, I don't see how you go from here to championship anytime soon, especially with the makeup of the conference, because we're assuming Kyrie Irving will be back one day. And then you look at the West and you see those teams, which team would be coming out of the West would be a well put together team. The Celtics are not close to a championship. And ideally, you don't want to just spend the next 3 seasons watching Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum score 30 plus points, but not really winning, because I don't see a star point guard in our future. So again, the season they made the conference finals, you had Kimba, who was kind of starting to fall off with the injuries a little bit, but I think that's one of the reasons they look good, because you had that point guard. Dennis Schroeder, again, has been good, but it's not the point guard of the future. That's not the guy that's going to be there with Tatum and Brown winning a championship in a couple of years. Anyways, I'm saying all this to say, I think Jaylen Brown's going to get traded one day. I don't know when, but the question comes up because people are like, oh, well, this season anyways, and Brown has barely played, so I'm not sure, but there's the crowd that says Brown is better than Tatum. I never really get into those arguments, but I will tell you one thing I know is the Celtics are not going to trade Jason Tatum. That's not going to happen. He is pretty much the face of the franchise. It's the face of the franchise, and I would also say at different points in different seasons, it flip-flops. There's stretches where people say Jaylen Brown is better, and there's stretches where people say Jason Tatum is better, but regardless, Tatum is the face of the team. And I also don't know if Jaylen Brown is that... I guess what I'm basically saying, I think Tatum's ceiling is probably higher. And I think that's what Boston sees. Therefore, Tatum would not be the one to be traded. It would be Jaylen Brown. Regardless of if we've come into this season and Brown has played better, he would be the one to be traded. Just how you hear his name floated in the Ben Simmons thing. And Ben Simmons does not bring Boston to a title this year. But at some point, I will just say the Celtics have to diversify what's happening here to move them closer to a championship. That's what I'll say about that. I don't expect a Ben Simmons trade. But Tatum, Brown, and this team gridlocked is not going anywhere. So there you go. That's, if it's unclear, decipher what I'm saying, man. Decipher what I'm saying here. They're sitting at 6-7 right now. Play-in team just like last year. I don't think they're going to do any worse than a play-in. But the Eastern Conference is messy. Just for reference, Boston is 10th right now, which is in the play-in. Milwaukee's not even in. They're tied, actually. Milwaukee's tied with the Celtics. They just went into an overtime thriller the other day without Chris Middleton or Giannis. Sure, Jaylen Brown wasn't playing, but that's just not a good look. So Milwaukee is going to eventually push one of these teams out. It's just a question of who. And every team on this list in the East right now is playoff worthy. From Cleveland to Toronto. They're at least, at a minimum, they're play-in worthy. So there's going to be a play-in worthy team that doesn't make it this year. And it might be Boston. Who knows? Who knows? Let's go ahead and change subjects, man. If I am moving off the Boston Celtics, I like to talk about the Chicago Bulls. Because it's pretty awesome what's happening there right now. It's unfortunate that they lost Patrick Williams. I thought it would have been nice to see him develop. I think, especially maybe what he could have done for this team defensively. Where, excuse me. I told y'all, I'm out of podcast shape right now. Patrick Williams, what he could have done for this team defensively is kind of big because they don't have a lot of wiggle room on that end. Especially with Vooch. I'm not going to lie, Vooch, he, as far as a center that moves his feet on defense, he's one of the worst. When I just watch him, he moves his feet at a bottom tier rate defensively, which I think will be a big deal in the playoffs. Which is also why I don't give them a pass for losing to the Warriors the other day, because I was saying it. I'm imagining Vooch being switched on to Curry or playing drop or whatever have you. It's not a good situation. But either way, the Bulls are 8-4, right? And it's awesome. It's awesome because Levine and DeRozan can go off for basically 25 to 30 points on any given night. Somewhere out there, the NBA experts, was it the GMs? Some official... Some people who have jobs in the NBA at official capacity called DeRozan the worst offseason move. And even before the Bulls came into the season and he was playing good, what the fuck? Like, what? Like, what? When DeRozan signed with Chicago this year, I was like, oh, that's awesome. So you get Lonzo Ball and you get another guy who can create? Like, why? That's awesome. I don't know how that ended up being touted as one of the worst moves. Maybe it's just because he doesn't shoot threes often, and so they thought it would make the Bulls easier to guard. But this is the thing. That's what happens when you go to San Antonio. That's one thing NBA Storyteller was absolutely right about. These guys go to San Antonio and they just get stripped of all personality and individuality, and they're not in the Tim Duncan era anymore. So now it just results in the player being totally forgotten and not cared about. And I think that's what DeRozan was the last couple of years. He is also playing much better. 26 points a game is pretty substantial. I think that's close to a career high for him. And it's beautiful to watch him work. He's going to work in the mid-range. It's taking pressure off of, well, Lonzo never played for Chicago before, but Lonzo doesn't have to do anything he didn't want to do now, seriously. He can be in spots and shoot. He can just take his pick at playmaking. Makes his life very easy. And Chicago is better because of it. On top of the fact that they finessed Alex Caruso onto the roster this year. If you did not hear what happened, that was, long story short, LA didn't want to pay him. That's it. The Lakers did not want to pay Caruso. He even tried to get them to pay him less, and they wouldn't do it. So he was like, all right, bet, Chicago it is. And he is playing some of the best defense in the league right now. So this is the part where somebody pulls up a clip of him applying all the ball pressure to Steph Curry and still getting splashed. But that happens to everyone, right? That happens to everybody. Caruso is he's a cog. He's a cog to a championship team. We saw it in LA. And he just does the little things, the little hustle things. Plug him in as part of some highlight plays there. He's a high IQ player. And then the tangible part is the defense that he plays. And that's been so big for Chicago. I think it's bigger than anybody thought it was going to be. Because I mentioned this at least once a week on the NBA's Twitch show too. Whenever Chicago comes up, I always mention, hey, people were saying Caruso just has clout because he's in LA. And yeah, he absolutely has more clout than he would have because he played for the Lakers. But also, I think that missed the bigger point that he's also a great piece. So that's happening. And the Bulls are 8-4. They had an impressive win against the Nets the other day. They are third in the Eastern Conference. Coming into this season, I pegged them at around 4, I think. And someone, yeah, that one was definitely on Twitch when we were doing the standings, and I think someone said I was overrating them. And I was like, bro, overrating Chicago would be putting them at 1 or 2, I believe. That's where you're shooting for stars. Because that team, Lonzo, DeRozan, the additions, they hadn't proved anything yet. So yeah, if I just based off of the additions would have put them at first, I think that would have been overshooting it. Fourth, I thought that was perfect. And then how crazy the Eastern Conference is, they could end up being just 1 game behind the team and probably being 6. That still could happen. But right now they are about where I imagine them though. It's very early in the season, but this is close to where I imagine them anyways. And I still, through all of it, once it's said and done, I still see it as a second round out. Because once you get to that second round, that's gonna pit you against a team in Brooklyn, or it's going to put you against a Miami or Milwaukee. It's going to get you against those teams that I think are more built for a championship. And in the long haul, it might be a little bit, again, it is early to be talking about playoffs, but I think that's kind of where defensively it'll be difficult for them. Like we saw against Golden State the other night, they can play great offense, the Bulls can. And they can look pretty, and they can even have some good flashes on defense. But overall, I don't think they're going to be able to, I don't think they'll be able to, in the long haul, beat some of these teams that have multiple points of superstar attack, which is what you'll have to do to go all the way. I don't think they're there yet. But it's fun to watch. It's not all just about the sum of what's going to happen in the playoffs, right? They are the League Pass team. Chicago is your League Pass team. If you watch your squad and you want somebody else, that's just fun. To look no further than the play they had the other night against some team that I am totally blanking on. Caruso had a hustle play, and then Lonzo Ball threw a crazy pass to a Zach LaVine 360. That is exactly the type of basketball we dreamt of when the Chicago team got together. That's literally, I saw that play before it happened. That's Chicago for you right now. Interesting to see how they hold on, and also Vooch, like I said, COVID, so he'll be out for 10 days. He's still important, even though he hasn't been the best for them this season. He spaces the floor for them. He's still a guy that you don't want to leave open, even though I see some teams daring him sometimes, because there was one game where he just didn't. I think it was against the Nets. Whatever game they won before they played the Warriors. He just looked like he didn't want to shoot. I didn't even think there was a teammate that told him, like, bruh, shoot. Look at the goal. Yeah. Look, man. Vooch is still important to the squad. If they were to tell me he's out for the whole season right now, I'd be significantly lower on the Chicago Bulls. But I like what they're doing right now. Chicago was fun, just like we thought they were going to be. Let's transfer to not fun before we go back to fun. because I'm saving the Lakers. Not fun, Portland. Not fun at all. I would tell you right now, and I just have no shame in saying this, I care about Portland as little as I have ever cared about a team with a superstar on it. That's just plainly. I don't care if Lillard fans get mad at me or Portland fans get mad at me. It is time to break that shit up. It's time, bro. It's past time. I had a barbershop talk in my mind that I was going to make in the playoffs last year. I think I just didn't get around to it. And maybe I did make it. And it was just about Portland. It's time to end this, bro. It's oh my God, it hurts my head so bad. Because now it's manifesting itself in poor Damian Lillard play. And it's crazy because I actually found myself aligned with Charles Barkley for once. But he said something that I said to my brother again before I saw it. I told, because we were talking about the Lillard slump. I made a video about the Lillard slump on the main channel. And I was trying to point out the fact that, hey, it's not just the rule changes. Sure, you can say the rule changes are affecting him, and he has foul baited before, but Lillard is not one of the guys where such a big part of his game was foul baiting, like the Trae Young or James Harden, where it was damn near built into their biology. Lillard's not one of those guys, although he's being affected. What I was trying to portray there was, hey, if you watch Portland games, he's just flat out missing. He's missing something, and he's missing shots that he would normally make. And there was a game against, maybe it was against the Nuggets or Memphis. It was a game they lost. It was about a week ago. He had 2 layups that he would have made before that he just didn't make. They just fell flat. I'm starting to hear of an abdominal injury. I even saw in one of the last games I watched him play, he started to reach for it. It's the first time I saw him reach for it. So I guess there's an injury. That's a part of it too. But overall, the part that I agreed with Charles is that I don't think Lillard believes in this anymore. I think he's been lying to himself for a while. I'm not trying to sound like some corny-ass psychoanalyst here because I don't know Lillard at all. But I feel like he's been so dedicated to this thing of, I'm going to be loyal and I'm going to win one in Portland, like how Giannis won one in Milwaukee and how Dirk won one in Dallas. My day is coming. Dame, your day in Portland is not coming. And if it ever does, feel free to paste this and just throw it in my face. Throw this podcast bit in my face. Your day is not coming in Portland. Nobody is coming to Portland. The front office is not bringing anybody to Portland. You've been more or less working with the same team for the last ever. It's you and CJ every year and a bunch of mediocrity every single year. And that's what I think he's starting to, I think he saw the truth this summer. Because little by little, I started to see some cracks on the offseason. Some quote he would put on Instagram. Then there was a meeting he had with LeBron James. For the first time ever, it started to seem like he considered that he might have to leave Portland if he wants to be successful. But he stood pat. He's made a million freestyle bars at this point about how he's loyal and he's not like the other corny NBA dudes who team up. Pretty much his words, not mine. So he can't backtrack on that. But he's seen the light. Now he's seen the light. And he realizes, even if he wants to stick to this, he realizes it's not a good situation. And so I think that makes it harder to play when you don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's what's going on in Portland right now, is he realizes he can, even once he beats this abdominal injury, I guess, is what's slowing him down. And he gets back on track this year, because I'm assuming Damian Lillard is not going to be averaging, because it's not good right now, bro. Like he has a good game every now and then, but if you look at Lillard right now for this season, he's averaging 20 points a game. That's -8 last season, pretty much -9 if you want to be technical. He's shooting 26% from 3. That is down 13 from last season. He's shooting 38% from the field. That's down from 45 last year. Even his effective field goal percentage can't save him. Normally when a guy's field goal percentage looks kind of shaded, you can say, hey, but look at the effective. It's 44%. Lillard is not playing like an all-star right now. That's plainly, he's not playing like an all-star. Plainly, it looks like he fell off at the moment because that injury hasn't really been visible. It's not like he tore something last year and he's coming back from it. We hadn't even heard much about this injury. I kind of just found out about it. Whatever it may have you, it's a terrible season for him. And we're 13 games in. And every now and then he has it, like I said, literally every now and then he has a good game, but Portland at this specific moment for the first time under his reign, since he was a rookie, I believe, would probably end up missing the playoffs. I mean, they're a play-in team because the West is looking mad shaky. They're looking so shaky that the Thunder, who we thought were just going to be a tank machine, are actually in the play-in right now. They're 5-6. Shout out to Shai Gilgeous. I'll talk about him a little bit. They've won 4 straight. But, yeah, I don't even want to spend too much time on the Portland Trail Blazers. They make me miserable. Watching Portland games makes me miserable. Keeping up with Portland makes me miserable. I don't like it because I watch it every year. It's the same show. And now it's worse because Lillard's not even that great. Shout out to CJ McCullum, by the way, who is that great. So CJ McCullum has been having a season for himself. I do want to give him his clout. When you turn on a Portland game, that is what sticks out to you. And so this season, he is, sheesh, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It don't look as good as I thought it did. From when okay, so yeah, it's mainly at the beginning. He had a good start. Let's say CJ McCullum had a good start. It's actually not, it's not incredible. But when I watch him, it felt like he's taking some steps. Look at this is what I was talking about. See how fucked up Portland has me? It's time to go, bro. It's time to go. It's time for him to be traded. It's time for him to ask for a trade. Just like it's time for Cat. It's getting time for Cat to ask for a trade in Minnesota. It's the same exact thing, man. Because I don't want to just keep spinning my wheels about Portland, I guess I'll just mention that about the Timberwolves, who had a surprise win in LA the other night, but are also not doing great. Minnesota Timberwolves are 4-8 after starting the season, I think 3-0. Anthony Edwards has clearly taken some steps, but here's my problem with the Wolves. It really seems like it's those three, and as in Russell, Edwards, and Towns, or it's nothing at all every night. And it's probably not a playoff team. It's probably a play-in team at best. There's a meme out there from Minnesota Timberwolves fans about how they start the season happy, and then like in the first week or something, and then it's just misery after that. That it tracks so far. And it'll probably just be another Minnesota Timberwolves season if those three don't completely carry the offense at like damn near 30 points a game each every night. It will probably look similar, and they probably will be a play-in or not a playoff team at all. We have to see if D'Angelo Russell could stay healthy. He already missed a game or two with a sprained ankle. And here's my thing, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's about that time. It is about that time for Cats. I didn't even realize. So he signed an extension. It looks like he signed that extension in 2018. He's actually under contract until 2024. In NBA star terms, though, it's not that long. So the 2022 season is happening right now. If it goes the way it's tracking, it will end in a disaster like every Minnesota Timberwolves season, which would mean next year would be his next to last. So the 2023 season would mean, okay, I'm playing this year, and then next year is my last year, the 2024 season. And that's assuming we're writing this season off, right? My problem with the Wolves and Cat is that he's not had one competitive season in Minnesota so far. The only competitive season he had was when Jimmy Butler was there, and you can argue that that wasn't great for, that didn't end great for anybody involved. The Wolves, it looks a lot outside of the Jimmy Butler season. It looks like when Kevin Love was there, Cat can put up his numbers, but they don't win. He might have an injury. They miss. He's only made 2 All-Star teams in his career because of it. And then it's hard to see, like, in a timely manner where this is going. So unless he wants to be loyal, like Damian Lillard pretty much, and just say, okay, you know what, I believe in Anthony Edwards. One day me and him are going to be a championship duo, or maybe even me, him, and Russ are going to be a championship trio. If this year doesn't, if they don't make any progress at that this year, I kind of feel like he needs to, they need to start thinking about the future. Or he needs to start thinking about the future before he ends up like Damian Lillard. Because I do like what's happening with Anthony Edwards, but if you're a player of the caliber that Cat is, you're thinking all-star teams, all-NBA teams, championships. That probably will not happen in Minnesota. And so I hate to just leave Ant hanging like that, but hell, maybe it's Ant's turn next. Maybe Cat gets cashed out for pieces, and then Ant takes over, and that's they do that thing with him for the next how many ever years. It's just Cat is still young. He's only 26 years old. But it's like the bus hasn't even gotten started yet. In his career in Minnesota, it's like the bus hasn't even gotten started, and he's been there since 2015. Yeah, he got drafted there in 2015, so the 2016 season, and the bus still hadn't even left the bus loop yet. They're not even on the way yet. And so I just hate to see this happen to players. I get it. We talk about loyalty and this, that, and the other thing, but I also, when something doesn't make sense, I am in full support of players finding better situations for themselves. That's why I am the way I am with Lillard. And that's pretty much why I'm starting to get that way with Cat. But I'll give it another year, right? Like I said, I will give it the 2022 season. Let's see if they can make the playoffs this year. And because it's early right now, and maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves aren't going to follow that meme format. But it's kind of hard to imagine how that won't happen when you're depending so heavily on those three guys and a second-year Ant. I will give y'all this year, bro. After this, I'm on y'all ass, Minnesota. Plainly, I am on y'all ass next year for Cat. That's all I'm gonna say about Minnesota. That's it. Minnesota, I kind of lumped them together because Lillard and Towns there. I see these situations starting to, they're looking too similar to me. Let's talk about something that makes me happy. Oh, I could go with a couple of things here. Jokic, Nikola Jokic, watching him play basketball. Watching him play basketball makes me happy. I just read a tweet, and it was before I started podcasting. And I didn't know if I wanted to post it or not because I couldn't tell if it was a troll. But I'll read it here. Because he started arguing his point. He was really arguing it. So I didn't know. It seemed like he was serious. He asked, when has Jokic ever taken over a single game with his, quote, elite passing or even his scoring? Never. He's a good player, but not great. Sounds like some troll shit, right? If you actually watch Nuggets, sounds like some troll shit. But he started arguing it. He didn't just say sadly, like he didn't go or Cat better sadly and nothing like that. He was actually arguing it. Said, you heard me. When is he dominated on defense either? Like every other good center has. His best stat last year was that he didn't miss a game. Big whoop. So he started like really arguing this, which is crazy because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're not watching Nuggets games or you're not watching Jokic, or you're not at very least doing work to keep up with it, you're exposing yourself talking about his defense because he's having the best defensive year of his career. And the Nuggets, did I bookmark the stat? Let's say the Nuggets are way better on defense this year than they are without him. So if you're talking about Jokic being a slow guy who you could just cook in pick and rolls, that is the exact opposite of what's happening. I just watched him win a game the other day with his defense, which it was the Rockets, so take that how you will. But once again, I'm looking for actions on the basketball court. That's why I talk about it with the Warriors and whoever else I said that for earlier. I'm looking at what's actually happening. And I watched Jokic pursue Kevin Porter off of a pick and roll and get a great contest for a shot that I believe could have taken the lead. And I watched him shade over it and help before getting a game-winning block. If you watch him in pick and roll defense right now, it's not like Brook Lopez and drop in the playoffs. Jokic is legitimately playing good defense on top of everything else he's doing, which is why I say don't forget about him in the MVP race. Because he already did everything else. The scoring, which, again, that's why I said I assume Buddy was trolling with that, because I've seen him take over plenty of games with his offense. That's... what? But yeah... he has his hat in the ring for best passer in the league. That's still a thing. Does the rebounding, and on top of that, he does defense now too. So I sense that because the Nuggets aren't going to go far without Jamal Murray, or we don't know what they're going to do this year. I'm not sure. And the fact that they went out in the second round last year and it's really hard to repeat as an MVP, I sense that he may be forgotten, especially because Curry is like the shiny new toy again. Even though last year he was with it, I never thought he had a real chance to win it because of where the Warriors were. Now he has a real chance to win it. Now KD has a real chance to win it. It's gonna be hard for Jokic to go back to back. He would legitimately probably have to get that 1 seed, and I don't know if that can happen without Jamal Murray. And I don't know what to expect from this team without Jamal Murray, especially when Michael Porter Jr. got paid multiple Brinks trucks and is pretty much a no-show this season. But it doesn't matter because, hey, guess what? Will Barton. That's happening right now for the Denver Nuggets. But when you look at Denver, the story coming into this year was, hey, Michael Porter Jr. is going to develop. They paid him like the star of the future that we all believe he can be. So let's go with that. And then that's how the Nuggets will be good this year. And that's not how they're good this year. They're good because Jokic is good. And then Will Barton is their second leading scorer, who, if I am remembering my years correctly, I think they were pretty much missing Will last year, weren't they? Yeah, he played 56 games. I think that was a piece that they needed. And he either wasn't there or wasn't healthy. Either way, he is averaging a career high in points right now. So that's great. Shooting a career high, 40% from 3. Hell, he's even got a career high in minutes. Yeah, Will Barton is number 2 right now. And you got Aaron Gordon, of course, still great. Still a great match with Jokic. But the Aaron Gordon thing, because I made a whole video on it last year. Hopefully people didn't read that as like Aaron Gordon just won the Nuggets a championship. That was when they had Jamal Murray. So I thought Aaron Gordon was a great piece to a championship team, not like a number 2. But you still get your nice Jokic to Aaron Gordon connections. And it's just fun, man. Watching Jokic it's just an absolute treat. He literally does everything. He legitimately has an argument to be called the best player in the NBA. Shout out to Nekias. I know he wrote an article, and people who don't watch Nuggets games just quote tweeted it and tried to ratio him. I'm like, look, I don't know if I'd call Jokic the best in the NBA right now, but he absolutely has an argument. At 25, 14, and 6, like as his average, and nearly 2 steals, and actually passing the eye test on defense, he has an argument. He absolutely has an argument. So Jokic makes me happy. Glad the thing with the Miami Heat didn't turn out worse the other day. But we have to see what happens with Jamal Murray. He got injured in March of last year, I believe, so it's going to be a minute before he's back. And I think the Nuggets championship ceiling involves Jamal Murray. Jokic could not take this team to a championship by himself. I would love to be wrong about that, but right now that's what I would stick with. Paul George. Paul George makes me happy, man. I have not seen playoff P trend one time this year, probably because we're not in the playoffs, but I haven't seen any of the joking names that you normally see trending when Paul George misses one shot. And I think it's for the reason that I said. Look how the things that I make videos about kind of like make vibrations throughout the NBA. I don't know if that describes what I'm trying to say here, but I made a video talking about Lillard and why he's not slandered like players such as Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook. So I'm not about to rehash the whole script here, but basically it had to do with expectations. And that's a big part of it. That's not the only thing, but when you expect certain things out of a player or out of a team, that creates the lightning rod. At least that's part of what creates a lightning rod for slander. And so because nobody believes in the Portland Trailblazers, nobody slandered Lillard for pretty much having the worst season of his career. They mention it, but it's not like as if Steph was having the worst year of his career. Paul George is playing great basketball, so obviously you can't slander him. But also, nobody expects the Clippers to be, hell, even as good as they are right now. They started the season rough. I thought it was about to go bad. They're 5th right now at 8-4, and they're actually tied for 3rd. They've won 7 straight games. I think it's helped that Reggie Jackson has come along. I think at the beginning of the season, it was starting to look like, oh, damn, they gave him that bag, and he's not playoff Reggie anymore. Well, Reggie Jackson has joined the show. He's joined the Paul George show. PG is having close to the best year of his career. He's averaging 26 points a game right now. He's also giving you 5 assists, 7 rebounds, actually 8. Shooting 37% from 3 and 47% from the field, which neither are his best mark. As a matter of fact, oh my gosh. Yeah, actually, yeah, his field goal percentage right now is one of the highest of his career. It's actually second to last year, so that's come up. But it's even more impressive because this is the most shots he's taken per game since he was in OKC in his last season. So, as a matter of fact, it's the most shots he's taken in his career. He's taking 22 shots a game. So that percentage he's shooting is on 4 more shots than he took last year. And this all tracks with the eye test. It's great to watch. Kawhi Leonardless, everything falls on the shoulders of PG, who had a great season, who had a great postseason, and damn near took the Clippers to the finals without Kawhi Leonard. It almost happened. So I think he earned a lot of respect there. And now we come in and say, okay, without Kawhi, this is no longer a championship team. Wouldn't even be surprised if they end up below 500 or at the bottom of the Western Conference. So even if PG, I think because PG is a slander, he's a slandered lightning rod regardless. I think he probably would be getting killed if he was terrible without Kawhi right now. But also, I'm not even sure if he gets talked about as much as he should with how good he's doing. Because at the end of the day, we don't expect this team to be able to do much in the playoffs without Kawhi. We don't know if he's coming back. Either way, it's beautiful to watch, offensively, defensively. It's like Indiana Paul George, killing it from the mid-range, clutch shots, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him because just like we forget KD tore his Achilles, we also forget Paul George broke his leg gruesomely. And just as a mental thing, it could have very easily wound up never being the same player. But he's only missed the All-Star team one time since then, and that was in the 2020 season. That was a weird season anyways. And he was in and out back then. It is 12 games, and I will say that the PG slump is a notorious part of any season, and now Kawhi is not there. So if the slump does come, I think that'll not look pretty at all for the Clippers, because I'm not sure how much Terrence Mann or Reggie Jackson can carry that if it does happen. Of course, if it happens last year, then it's Kawhi can go off and be the robot that he is consistently. But without that, at some point you wonder if he runs out of gas and the defense tightens up. But that could be alleviated by Reggie being, by goggled Reggie being one of the best players of all time. Still rocking his goggles like he was in the playoffs last year. Yeah. Paul George, it's good right now. It looks good right now. I personally don't expect Kawhi Leonard to be back this season just because he tore his ACL in the playoffs. Like deep in the playoffs. So the recovery time is the same. Even if he did come back, like he's then gotta work himself into NBA shape right as the playoffs are starting. But then Kawhi, I've seen crazier things from him too, so who knows, right? But right now, I would still see the Clippers. I'd still see them. I could see them as like a 6 seed. If Paul George lifted this squad to 2, 3, if he lifted them, my bad, I'm tripping. 2 is not, bro. 2 is unobtainable. Clippers are not going to be a 2 seed. But if you get them around 3, MVPG campaign is back. It'll be very hard this season just because the Warriors look like they're about to have one of those golden years. So it'd be very hard to pass a guy like Curry at that point. Hell, even KD if the Nets are first. But PG at 3rd would definitely, it'll at least be an MVPG campaign. That's one I could get behind. Even if I would choose somebody else, I wouldn't be as mad about it as I was when they were trying to give it to him over Giannis because he was having a great week. I support MVPG this time. Jamal Murray makes me happy. He's not going to be an MVP this season, but he'll be an MVP one day. So you've seen me tweet about Ja a fair bit, and it's just everything is opening up for him this season. Everything, the floor, his game. He has he's not gonna win Most Improved Player. That's not gonna happen. I think that's probably gonna go to a Miles Bridges. But what is he up right now? 7 points a game from last year. Averaged 19 last year. He's averaging a solid 26. That looks like it's here to stay. 48% from the field on 5 more shot attempts per game so far. And he's taking 5 threes a game as opposed to... okay, he's taking 1 more 3 than he was last year pretty much. But still, 5 threes a game, shooting 35%. That's the big part of this, right? Because Ja legitimately has the athleticism of a prime Derrick Rose. I'm not saying anything crazy by saying that. It's the explosion at the rim, the contortions of his body to get certain angles, the dunks. It's eerily reminiscent of D Rose before he tore his ACL. Very eerily. I think there's some inspiration. I think he took some inspiration from that. From him. But because of the era he's in, he's clearly recognized the need to shoot 3-pointers, and he's progressing at it. So when you talk about Derrick Rose level slashing with a modern 3-point game, that is a sight. That is a future MVP. That is a future MVP. And you can't convince me otherwise. I don't think it's a current MVP just because I especially at the beginning of the season, things could change. Memphis could become more consistent, but right now it's very inconsistent. Also the Pelicans, I think the score was 50 to 28 at a point last night. How does that even happen? They're 6-7. Again, I've seen records like this end up just completely turning around and all of a sudden they're at the top. But I don't think the Grizzlies are going to be a top Western team this year. They're in the play-in last year. Ja is clearly taking a step, but again, if even to win MVP this year, again, this is a difficult year. This is just a hard year to win it, given the guys that are going to be at the top of that race. But it's a future MVP, man. The Grizzlies have nice pieces there. to develop too, so it's not just Ja playing with a bunch of bums. That's something that they can build with and be a top team in another year or two. Maybe add another piece. But the progression of his game and the just larger than life step that he's taken in this third year, boy, it is nice. It is must watch TV. And that makes me happy. Ja Morant. Since I never got enough prime Derrick Rose, I can live those glory days through Ja Morant. That's the way that happens. I did mention a most improved player. I think right now that's probably going to go to Miles Bridges. And Miles Bridges is absolutely... he's killing, man. Miles Bridges is killing. And that's one where if you just watch Hornets basketball, you can see you don't necessarily even have to read stats for that one. It's off the dribble. It's the three-point shot. It's becoming a legitimate like second point of attack behind LaMelo, pretty much. Hell, maybe even first right now. It's averaging 21 points a game, up from 12 last year. Literally just inverted, I guess you would say. His scoring from last year. He's taking 3 more threes a game, so that's a big focus for him. So while his percentage went down in three-pointers, the attempts went up. Doesn't matter. Like, he's taking them more, and he's more effective, and he's an actual threat that you have to guard from out there right now. 34% is not bad at all. Just for reference, he shot in his second season, he shot 33%. And that was when he was taking 4 threes a game. Now he's taking damn near 8. So there goes the improvement there. Miles has been, it's been a pleasure to watch his development. The man windmilled yesterday to tie the game. I was like, that's insane behavior, sir. I understand that Obi Toppin did a windmill to take the lead, but yeah, in the clutch to windmill to tie the game, all the things that could go wrong, that's still insane. There's no scenario where that's not insane. And he's been a part of a Hornets team that's been fun. They are still looking like they're probably going to turn out being more of like bottom Eastern. They're 500 right now. That's okay because they're not done yet. That team is not done yet. LaMelo, one of my probably my second favorite passer in the league to watch right now, also taking a step. Looks like he looks like he's been in the NBA for years, and this is just year 2. And he came in during a very weird time as well. Obviously, they're still a big man away, which I think I'll be talking about in the G League section. It's more future stuff. I don't think they're gonna get the big that they need this year, but they'll need somebody else other than Plumlee eventually. But you got the makings of something nice. You got Terry Rozier there. You got Gordon Hayward. You got Miles Bridges. And they did this all in a very short time. They went from being a team that was more or less just directionless to where they are today, which is you have a nice core. And when you have a young team like that in a franchise that never succeeds, you can be happy with that. So if the Hornets are a play-in team this year at 7, or if they even finesse their way to 6, that was a successful season. You obviously shouldn't be asking them to contend right now, but they are fun, bro. They are fun also because LaMelo is just a genius when it comes to passing. So some of the things, how creative he gets with it to deliver the ball, whether it's a full court fling with one arm like a quarterback, or whether it's over the head, like no look to a cutting Miles Bridges. It's just it's fun, man. Then you have the commentator who just might be doing too much. I ain't gonna lie. I think Bridges had a dunk the other day he caught against Memphis, and it was nice, and it even made me like jump a little bit. But then the commentator just like almost shat himself. I'm like, all right, bro, I get it. You got a brand to keep. Come on, bro. I'm not taking a position against the Hornets commentators. That's not a popular thing. I get it. They're great. They're great. So far, I would say Bridges is MIP, but we'll see. I think that'll take us to the Lakers because that started kind of making me think about 6 men. And Melo's been pretty good overall so far this season, although Tyler Hero's probably the 6th man of the year leader. Yeah, I think this is a good time to talk about the Lakers because I'm getting towards the end of like teams that I wanted to say things about. The Los Angeles Lakers. You know what? One more team before I do that because I will probably be on the Lakers for a minute. One more team I just did want to mention, Orlando Magic. Even though they are probably going to be lottery this year, bottom of the Eastern Conference, more than likely. They're 3-10, but there's still reason to be excited. I bought some Orlando stock this summer. That is something you can verify. I did once they Once I saw the core there, I'm like, okay, I'm putting stock here. I'm just buying a little bit of stock here. It's not going to turn into anything yet, but for the first time, you talk to some Orlando fans down here, they're saying, okay, I see something that we can actually work with for the future, because they were in a weird place. They're rebuilding from a rebuild. That former squad they had that had like Oladipo, Harris, Vucevic, that was rebuilding from the Dwight Howard era, and then they kind of got stuck with these guys who were clearly good individually, but not going to ever take Orlando far, really. And so they ended up with Vucevic being the last man there, and then they were like, okay, let's go ahead and fully rebuild. But now you got a bunch of young guys who can develop into something and possibly be competitive one day, because Cole Anthony's taking a step. I think he just had his 7th 20-point game of the season or something. Low-key, it's interesting because he's doing this while Markelle Fultz is out, and Fultz is also a point guard, so, and they're both small. I'm kind of looking at that going, man, I don't know if a Fultz and Cole Anthony backcourt, it seems kind of annoying, because I just like, when a guy needs the ball, I really like just to see them blossom in that role. And once Fultz comes back, I'm not sure how it works. And you're trying to develop that. You're trying to also develop Jonathan Isaac. But then there's also the Wagner brother. I hate saying his first name because it looks like Franz, but I hear them say like Vons or bro. I'm just going to call him the Wagner brother, the rookie. Started off pretty good, one of the better rookies. I think he's cooled off a little bit, but came in with an NBA-ready impact game. And it's like you got that Mo Bamba as well, who's not in the Steve Clifford doghouse anymore. So he's actually being able to start his NBA career, and it's looked pretty decent so far. And you got Wendell Carter. There's enough there for Orlando that it's like, okay, this could legitimately be something one day. And hopefully it doesn't just kind of stop halfway like it did with the last Vucevic-led group, where there's a lot of guys who were good but never going to be great together. Hopefully it doesn't stop there. Hopefully they can actually develop into something legitimate, because the pieces are there for Orlando. That's what I'll say. Cole Anthony's had a couple 30-point games as well, and he's starting to take a step in Markelle Fultz's absence. But he is taking a step right now, which is interesting, because coming in, I was curious about the type of NBA player he would be. And the game is looking nice. The drives, the shot. I believe he's up to 20 points a game right now. Just to give Cole Anthony some actual love instead of just, yeah, here he is. Cole Anthony is up to 20 points a game right now. Flat 20 points a game, shooting 38% from 3 on 5 more attempts per game this year, pretty much. Yeah, it's 4. 42% from the field. It's not incredible or anything, but then there's a 52% effective field goal percentage. But the 3-point percentage is what sticks out. So that's an improved 3-point percentage on 4 more attempts. And you can see that matches. If you at least watch Magic highlights, it matches. So that's a little bit I want to say about the Magic. Just remember, Dom told you to buy a little bit of stock. I bought some this summer before I even saw them on the court. Just buy a little bit, because it could be interesting. That's my Orlando bit. Okay, let's go ahead and tackle the Lakers, which will probably be the last team I talk about. And I saved them for last because it's going to take a while. Or it might be pretty quick. I feel like I've blown through a lot of the teams pretty quickly. The Los Angeles Lakers did not trade for Kyle Lowry last year. I think they're regretting that right now. They let Kuzma go. He's doing pretty decent for the Wizards. They let Montrezl Harrell go. His name is on the Basketball Reference MVP tracker, which is never the real one, but still. The fact that he's been doing good enough to even be mentioned there as a 6-man and as a guy that wasn't playing last year. Take that for what you will. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they let him go for Westbrook. They let Caruso go. They are a whopping 7-5 off the top of my head. And they play the Spurs today. That is something I should mention on this podcast. This is going up before the Sunday games, because there's so much basketball I'll be watching today. I really didn't want to have to podcast during those games, and I didn't want to release this at like 12 at night. They're 7-6, by the way. 7th in the West. So, Dom, they're hurt. LeBron hasn't been there. There's a tweet that exists out there from a guy that said, we're overstating the Lakers' problems right now. They're missing LeBron. It's that simple. No, sir, it is not that simple. I'm sorry. When the Lakers had LeBron this season, it did not look that great. The couple of wins they had came against teams like the Cavs, who, oh my God, I was supposed to talk about Cleveland. That'll happen in the rookie section. And I just said teams like the Cavs, like they aren't even good. The Cavs are pretty good this season, so, okay. That's not the right angle to take here. Basically, I'm just saying they don't have that many. By the way, bro, I promise you, I did not just I was just readjusting in my chair. I did not just shit myself, if you heard it on the microphone. No, where I'm going, the Lakers have not looked great with LeBron on the floor either. Of course, he makes any team better. He makes this Lakers team better. But it's not just as simple as plug LeBron James back in. It is literally not that simple. For their goal of winning a championship with this expensive Russell Westbrook contract that is not easy to get out of, it is not as simple as just get LeBron James back. They have lineups that they have to figure out. They have to figure out in the half court how they get LeBron and Westbrook to work, because so far all they have is that basically LeBron and Westbrook pick and roll. That's something that they finally started to go to. But other than that, in transition they look great, as we assume two very fast and athletic players would. But transition basketball is not going to win you a championship these days. It slows down quite a bit, especially when teams will be looking to attack Westbrook in a half court. Not defensively. I mean, they'll be looking to use Westbrook as an attack against his own team in the half court. It's not a good fit. It's not a good fit. I said as much when they traded for him. I made a barbershop talk about it. I did not reveal any crazy information to you by saying that. I think everybody pretty much realized it. And basically what I was saying was, hey, maybe Westbrook is like, I was asking y'all really, I was saying, is he going to become a much better 3-point shooter at this point in his career? Because he knows he's playing with the team that needs it. So is he just going to work on that all summer and all of a sudden come in shooting great? No, that didn't happen, and it's not going to happen. And I was saying maybe they take a page out of how LeBron and Dwayne Wade used to work, even though Russell Westbrook is not at the level that Dwayne Wade was when they used to play together. So that also doesn't work. Also, Russ is just not as good as Dwayne Wade ever was. So there's that. I tried to find every conceivable way for this to work. So far, it hasn't. But the thing is, I want to give the Lakers some grace because they have been hurt. Besides LeBron James, they're missing legitimate rotation guys. So it's not saying that a Taylor Horton-Tucker or a Trevor Ariza or even Kendrick Nunn is going to turn the team around, but lineups are so important. That's the reason Kyrie's not playing for the Nets right now, is because coaches have to figure out lineups that they're going to go to all the time, and so having a player like Kyrie being in and out all the time wouldn't work. But also not having bodies to figure out your lineups at all does not help, especially when you have something as delicate as Russell Westbrook in the half court to figure out. When you have that, if you have players that can shoot a basketball, they are vital to your rotation. And so they've missed Wayne Ellington finally made his way back, but so he's one of like the 4 or 5 guys that they've been missing that could help that become a thing. And because of it, you get stuck with lineups where DeAndre Jordan is playing center in 2021, the year of our Lord, starting at center. I've done plenty of DeAndre Jordan talk in 2021. I don't have anything against him. It's just that he's not a starting level defender at the center position, which is very vital because teams run hella pick and roll and you have to do a lot in space and you have to give some effort at defense. And I think with DJ, he's still athletic, so you can throw him lobs and he might even be able to go straight up and protect the rim sometimes. But he's not a defensive level starting level center, and he is also clogging space with Westbrook on the floor. Westbrook and DeAndre Jordan have had moments this season where it looks exactly how you would think in terms of the paint being clogged. And so then you say, okay, AD plays 5. More and more this season we're seeing AD play 5, but he's also shooting like shit. If you didn't know, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you before I even get to the page, his 3-point percentage has to be the lowest that it's been in his career. Maybe since he was young and 3-pointers weren't that important. If I just organize from 3-point percentage right here, 2022. Yeah, it's the lowest. He's shooting 14% from 3 right now. 15 if you want to be technical. That is the lowest of his career since he started taking threes. Because in 2015 and 2013, he just wasn't even taking them at all. Which is kind of crazy to believe. AD was not taking threes in 2015. As dominant as he was. So yeah, this is the lowest of his career with any attempts. He's not even attempting that many. It's a crazy thing. He's only taking 2 a game, but he's not making any. He's not fucking making any. And when you think that the whole idea of AD being a center is so you can help the space. Also, so you could have a better defensive center than DeAndre Jordan, but definitely so Westbrook can have space so they can't just clog the paint. And if you watch Laker games, you'll see me on Twitter often. I promise I'm not just making fun of the Lakers. Like, there are some accounts out there that just love bashing the Celtics all the time, and it just gives them life. That's not really what I do when I post the screenshots of Russell Westbrook being ignored while the rest of the team is being looked at by multiple defenders. That's really just me just asking, what do they do with this? What do they ever do with this? Because teams will legitimately, even if the pass even if Westbrook is 2 passes away, right? They're still playing way further off of him than you would be comfortable with playing off of any relevant shooter. That makes life harder for Anthony Davis. That makes life harder for LeBron James when he's on the floor. Even though LeBron is going to be able to get his, it makes it more difficult. And it makes you wonder how this works in the playoffs when that will be the game plan. And so that is on top of the fact that Russell Westbrook, I hate to break it to you, just sometimes is not a good point guard. And this is what I don't understand about, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about Russ stands and how hard they will come after you for talking about him. But we all watch the same Russ, right? And it's okay. He's a good guy. Like, he's awesome. Russell Westbrook off the court seems like an awesome dude. So, yeah, if you personally hate him, that's weird. But when you watch his game, even if you're a fan of him, you do see the flaws, right? You do see that for most of his career, he's played at 1,000 miles an hour in every situation. So it causes him to take a bad shot at the end of a game, or it causes him to turn over the ball at the end of a game, or put his teammates in a bad position. You see that, right? Those are valid criticisms. I don't even understand how you could stand a player so hard. You could basically just bring a hate train towards anybody who says these things, but you're his fan. You watch these things. You see them. You see this shit, right? He's averaging 5 turnovers a game this year. 5 of them. He's the starting point guard for a team that is supposed to win a championship. Or that has championship expectations, at least. That is not championship level point guard things, which hurts my soul, because look on this channel, and I made a video years and years ago saying Russ could be a championship point guard, because I watched him play a game against the San Antonio Spurs, and he did a lot of smart point guard things, and I was like, hey, he could always do this. Maybe he could always do this, and it didn't happen. 19 points a game for us right now. He's had some good games for them. Hell, he's actually putting up near a triple-double once again. That's just kind of standard with Russ at this point. But he's also shooting 29% from the 3. He's also shooting 42% from the field. And yes, when I talked about the turnovers, 5.3, which matches his career high damn near. From 2017, when his usage was sky high because he was playing on a team that should not have made the playoffs. He's averaging the same amount of turnovers he averaged on that OKC team as he's averaging on a team that is supposed to be going far. Even without LeBron James, there's no reason for them to lose certain games that they've lost. They lost to OKC twice in miserable fashion because they blew those leads. They just had one of the worst showings I've seen against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were down by 30 in that game. And the lineups that Vogel puts out with Westbrook hurt my head. Rajon of Rondo, Dwight of Howard, and Russell Westbrook on the floor at the same damn time. I don't care if Rondo has improved his 3-point percentage throughout his career, which he has, but this season he's not shooting it well. You do not put Rondo and Westbrook on the floor together. And you damn sure don't put them on the floor together with Dwight Howard. Once again, I'm giving Vogel some grace because guys have been out, and I know that he probably just has to run certain lineups. I think that's something that's being underrated. But I don't know if you have to run a Rondo, West, and Dwight Howard lineup. I don't know if you have to run that. The Lakers this season are going to need to pick up, and I don't know where you can even find it, but at some point, like, they need to find a shooting big man. Bielitsa would have been perfect on this team. He really would have. Maybe he doesn't have size, so like calling him big man is, I mean, he doesn't have like he doesn't play like the size of center like a Dwight Howard or anything, but they need a big that can stretch the floor. So when AD, because AD can't play 5 all the time, when you have to have AD and Russ on the floor, but AD is not the 5. You have to have a shooter in that position. You got to, man. You got to. You got to. There's no championship playoff lineup coming with Russ playing on the floor with DeAndre Jordan or Howard. It's not going to happen, bro. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And Russ just has to be a better point guard, man. I'm sorry, bro. If you call it slander because I'm laying legitimate criticism, bro, he's got to be better as a point guard. The thing that frustrates me is I've watched him do the same things for almost 10 years. I've watched him take ill-advised shots. I've watched him make terrible decisions at the end of games. And now on this team that is yet another team that is thinking he's the answer, I'm watching Carmelo Anthony post up And then the Portland Trailblazers double Anthony as they completely ignore Russ. And Russ doesn't cut, even though I don't think in the specific play I'm referencing, I don't think a cut would have solved the problem there. He would have just cut into straight like defense. But he didn't take the three because he's not a threat from three, and he knows that even. So he steps in and he airballs a mid-range shot. And so it was perfect. It worked beautifully. Hey, we can guard your teammates. We just ignore you. Russ is a self-cover at a certain point. He's going to have good games for the Lakers, man. He's going to have good games for the Lakers. He's had some good games. There'll be times where he wins a game just based off his athleticism at the end, where he runs through everybody in transition, or he finishes a tough layup, or even he hits a three. It happens. He hits clutch three sometimes. Russ will have his moments, but overall, the fit is a nightmare. And so when LeBron and Russ are back to figuring it out, because they need reps right now. That's the worst thing happening in LA at the moment. It's not even just that LeBron is out. It's that they desperately need as many half-court reps as possible to figure out how this works at a high level. And so we've heard, hey, bring Russ off the bench from a couple of people. Lowe made a video on it at the very beginning of the season. The people, the Kings commentators that I was on the NBA show with on Twitch this Tuesday also said it. They said it live, which I found hilarious because I was like, oh, I know they're going off on them in the comments. But take for a second the logic behind it, and not just don't hear it as Russ slander. It's the logic behind it. At this point, Russ has never, he hasn't really been a championship point guard, man. He just hasn't. And now he's at a place where it doesn't fit. Russell Westbrook will never come off the bench, probably. Not this year. This year, that'll probably never happen. There's a lot of politics, too. He's being paid all that money. He's Russell Westbrook. I don't even think he's ready to accept that role. But in a vacuum, that would be a lineup that I would think about. That would be it where you ignore media attention and all these other things, and hell, probably even chemistry. Russ off the bench is something I would consider. And not like in the terms of benching him, but in the terms of not full-time having to figure him out with LeBron James, because that is going to hold them back. We'll see how it works. The Lakers have to get healthy, and I do think they need to add another piece this year. Something that fits, not just names. But at the moment, that's not even the only problem. Their defense isn't good either. It's not a championship defense. That probably has to do with the fact that DeAndre Jordan is playing a lot of minutes, as well as other things. They're only 2 games out of second. That's because the West is really, really, I want to say really bad right now, but it looks funny. And it's early too. It's actually very early. Pretty much have the same exact situation going on in the East. But it's just crazy, like as bad as LA has been at points, the fact that they could win a couple of games straight and be second is wild. Because nobody's really separated themselves yet. That's the Los Angeles Lakers right now. That's the story, is health and Russell Westbrook as a point guard. That's literally that's Los Angeles Lakers for you. Melo has overall been good. He's throwing his hat in the 6th man of the year rank. Let me see if his numbers have changed any, because I've never read them on a podcast. But last time I checked, he was averaging a career high, I think, in that wouldn't be career high. He was a superstar at one point in his career, so there's no way it's a career high. But he's averaging 17 points a game. It's down to 16 now, so it's starting to come down a little bit. But it was at 17, like almost 18 the other day. 3-point percentage at 46%, which is actually a career high. Yeah. So career high in 3-point percentage. On almost career high attempts, taking 7 a game. That is actually, that's career high attempts. So career high threes on career high attempts off the bench. 46% from the field. That was 50, so that's come down a little bit. But still, overall, Melo's been great for them. He's been the best pickup for the Lakers, and he's playing his role. There was a day, this is something else that, by the way, their names are Deuce and Mo. If you're curious about the NBA commentators I'm talking about, they do some commentating for the Stockton Kings, who is the Kings G League's affiliate. Morgan does the pregame show for the Sacramento Kings. So they were on the NBA show with me on Twitch. And so Deuce and Mo, you can find them on platforms. And they were saying that at a certain point, we were all talking about how Melo accepted his role. Because remember when he was in OKC, he laughed at the idea of coming off the bench. And of course, it's been about 4 years since then, 3 or 4 years, but now it's happening. And I'm just saying, like, at a certain point, Russ might have to consider that. Because averaging a triple-double every year and having these explosive stats around March and April. That's the goal is a championship at the end of the day. Russell Westbrook's contract for the Los Angeles Lakers, that's not something they can just get out of, especially with them being at the end of LeBron's career, presumably. In the next few years, all jokes aside, LeBron probably will be gone in the next few years. Whatever that means. And Russ just got here. Why does this happen sometimes? Like, the contract page is here, and then it's not here. What in all the fuck's Basketball Reference? Come on, Brody. There we go. So, oh, he got a player option for $47 million next season. I don't think Russ is turning down $47 million. I could be wrong, but especially with his age and him probably, I think to me, looking at him, I think he's like half a step below what he's been in his career. I would not turn down $47 million. If he doesn't do that, the Lakers owe him that next season. That's a player option, not a team option. You're not going to be able to trade that, more than likely. Washington was able to trade it, but I'm not sure if the Lakers are going to be able to trade it. If this whole thing doesn't work out, is what I'm saying. And that'll be another year of LeBron's career, and you don't have that many of those left. And so maybe if it doesn't work out this year, you get like build a new team around them, and now you know Russell's shortcomings. Oh, look, all I'm saying is that's just a hard situation because the time is of the essence for the Lakers. That's all I'm saying. That's just all I'm saying. So let's see them get healthy. I'm not writing off LA, but the Russ fit looks as ratchet as I thought it was going to look. I did say, I think that, again, a lot of what I said about the Lakers at the beginning of the year was assuming health. And assuming health, I thought they could out-talent a lot of teams. Thought they could still end up at the top of the West, or near the top of the West, which right now can still happen, because despite all the injuries, like I said, 2 games out of the first seed, or second seed. So still could end up high up there. And I thought they could talent their way and LeBron James their way into a decent record like that, but the fit and the playoffs, it's always been my question. And it's still my question. It's no clearer than it was. That is pretty much what I want to talk about as far as teams. Rookies, man, this rookie class warms my heart. It is so amazing to watch. Evan Mobley has been great for the Cavaliers. I wondered aloud this year when they drafted him. I was like, okay, Jared Allen is there. Then Jared Allen got his $100 million. He's the center. Evan Mobley's 7 feet tall. How does this, like, what's the plan here in 2021, 2022? And it's worked great as a Twin Tower thing so far. Jared Allen has just been incredible on defense. He's taken a step on offense. He's constantly in the right spots for rebounds and the dunker spot. Great cutting when Evan Mobley has the ball, so Evan Mobley can find him. He's got pretty good passing instincts right now. And also Mobley can hit some mid-range shots too. I think it's going to extend even more out to the three-point line as his career goes on. But right now that's not the main thing for him. But Mobley's just great. Mobley is just great at the moment. He's going to become a better screen setter as his career goes on. I think that's just one of the things that's going to happen with more playing. But he knows where to be at the moment. Knows how to roll. And knows how to play with another 7-footer. And he also does all this while playing his size. He's not just like a 7-foot guy that's constantly standing on the three-point line or anything. Like, he's like actually 7 feet tall, and he does all these other things with it. He's going to be so damn good, bro. And at the specific moment, he might be leading the MVP, the Rookie of the Year race, just because I know Scotty Barnes missed a couple of games with a thumb injury. But Evan Mobley is averaging 15 points a game right now, almost 16 points a game. So 16 and 7. He's giving you nearly 2 blocks. And he is also shooting 52% from the field. And he knows his limits. He's only taking 2 threes a game right now and shooting 33%. So it's not even like one of those where he's not taking threes at all, or he's taking too many and he's shooting piss poor. It's right where for a rookie 7-footer you're happy with. If you're a Cavaliers fan, you're happy because you've added this onto a team that's growing. And it's going in the right direction. So Colin Sexton is out. No more Sexton for a little bit. But Garland is also taking a step right now. So you throw Darius Garland onto this. He's got more point guard duties right now. Especially with Sexton being out. He's kind of sharing it with Rubio too. That is a thing that's happening. Garland's averaging 17 points a game, man. It's averaging 17 points a game. It is at 48%, so more efficient than last year. Also, higher 3-point percentage. He's made like some incredible passes this year, bro. It's like incredible passes. 7 assists if I didn't say that. So 16 and 7. He had one 2 days ago that was over the head to Evan Mobley. So great read on a pick and roll and threw it over his head to Mobley. I like Darius Garland, man. I like Darius Garland a lot. I like the development. And then they also had Markkanen. They were running the big man lineup at the beginning of this year. Markkanen has been out also because of COVID. So like I said, third COVID season, and it's still knocking people out left and right. But they were doing it successfully. And because of it, Cavaliers what are they at now? They are 9-5 after beating the Celtics last night. Like I said, man, no shame in losing to a contender. Jared Allen, already praised him. Rubio went off against the Knicks, but again, he's a good piece for them. When he went to the Cavs this summer, I was just like, oh damn, I guess his career's just gonna kind of fade now. Like, he's always been a decent point guard, but going to Cleveland, I don't know. He's actually helping them compete right now. And I've been sitting in on Cavs games. I've really been sitting in on Cavs games. And it's not just like, oh, hot start. Of course, it could fall apart. And again, Sexton being out, it could, but it could also go the other way to give Darius Garland more responsibilities. It could look even better. Who knows? And they could be a playoff team this year. Again, in the Eastern Conference, there's so many teams you could say that for. The Hawks right now are not even in the race. They're 4-9, so they're outside of the play-in by 2 games. And they're not having a good season at all. And it's not a good look because, you know, I'm just fitting this in here. I'm still talking about rookies and the Cavaliers, but I did just want to fit it in with the Hawks. I had been adamant in saying last year was not a fluke. They did not beat injured teams. They legitimately came in and turned a Knicks series that people were expecting to be the best series in the first round into just light. That was chumps work for them. Then they completely shock and awed a Sixers team that was supposedly the best they'd been. Then they were competing with a Milwaukee team. So the way that series was going, it almost felt like they could have been in the finals. But this year, it's not looking good. And then also, Trae Young had a quote like 2 or 3 games ago saying the regular season is boring. I'm like, hold on, man. All right, slow down. Y'all didn't make the finals last year. You haven't won anything yet. I get it. Yeah, because it was his first, in the context of it, I get it. It was probably just one of those little cute remarks, like, because it was his first taste of the playoffs. Like, man, the regular season is boring compared to the playoffs. But it's like, just slow down, though. Hawks got a lot of work to do still. Almost made it to the finals last year, but you still got plenty of work to do. Can't be like Braun yet, where it's just like, it's just regular season. They don't have that privilege after one run. And so if that's the mentality, that's one of the things you see with them being 4-9 on a 6-game losing streak. But they started last season piss poor too, so obviously don't write them off. Don't write anybody off at this moment, because theoretically anybody could actually still make it into the play-in in the NBA right now, unless you're Houston. They're not going to the play-in, bro. But theoretically it could happen, but they're not going to the play-in, bro. Yeah, so rookies, that's pretty much what I wanted to say about Cleveland. Watch Cleveland basketball. I'm actually advocating something positive for Cleveland. I love Evan Mobley. Also love Scotty Barnes, man. The wingspan, the strides. He had one play, it was just a coast-to-coast dunk, right? So it's not that impressive. But I think he did it in like 3 dribbles. He went and got the rebound and took 3 dribbles and pushed it up court and dunked from coast to coast. It's got a nice mid-range game. I think he is going to be a great defender. He's got all the tools for it. I like the challenge that he gave James Harden when they came to Toronto. And he looks like he's been in the NBA for years already. That's Scotty Barnes. Like, they threw him in Toronto, and it looks like he's been a part of what they've been doing. Very, very fortunate, because Toronto's not even a bad team. They're mid. They're definitely mid after having the remnants of what was a championship team and then Kawhi left. They're not a bad team, and I think last year not being able to play at all in Toronto didn't help. So you throw a rookie like Scotty Barnes on top of that, and all of a sudden you've got some possible playoff hopes. Scotty's averaging 16 points and 8 rebounds at the moment. He's giving you a steal a game, shooting 51% from the field. Not a 3-point shooter yet. Definitely not a 3-point shooter yet. That'll probably come with his position. But it's just great. Like, he passes the eye test totally right now. And then you look at some of the lineups, they just got Siakam back. And you've got OG there as well. And so, and then Fred VanVleet probably being the best player still. You've got something to work with if you're the Raptors. And you're happy if you're a Raptors fan, because you didn't have to go tank. You didn't have to go get it out of the gutter. You're 7-7 right now. Nobody was really mentioning you coming into the season. If you're Toronto, yeah, I think you're just happy with what's going on. Obviously, no real aspirations this year, but to grow, and you've got a nice young core to do that with, because also OG Anunoby seems like he's taking some steps. It's another thing that's happening. Look at the OG averaging almost 20 points a game, so second leading scorer on the team right now. Obviously, he's got the tools defensively. He is at 34% from three. Yeah, 34% from three. So not great field goal percentage either, but taking more shots. That's all. That's really what you see with a lot of these guys that are taking steps, right? You'll say, oh, maybe their 3-point percentage isn't as high or their field goal percentage is not as high, but they're taking a lot more shots and they have a bigger role. And then if you actually watch them, you can see the steps as well. So, you know, it's not as important that OG is not shooting as efficiently last year when he's taking 5 more shots, and clearly he's doing more with the ball as well. You see him actually going off the dribble sometimes, or you see him coming off a screen and hitting a shot. And he's doing more for this team. And he's young. OG is young, bro. He's 24. Ain't been in the NBA that long. This is another thing that you have to build with. So OG and Scotty as your wings, or not as your wings, sorry, as your forwards, that is not a bad place to be. So you're happy if you're Toronto. Scotty Barnes. I already talked a little bit about the Wagner brother with the Magic. Chris Duarte had a very hot start, but yeah, he's just a decent scorer right now for the Pacers though. I don't think he'll be getting Rookie of the Year. I think Rookie of the Year will probably come down to Evan Mobley and Scotty, given that, especially because they're going to be pretty visible on what should be at least mid-winning teams. I think they'll probably end up being 1 and 2. Jalen Green, that because of course that leaves a major name out in Jalen Green, who was part of the G League Ignite program last year. He's come in, he struggled a little bit, but look, man, it's just the tools with Green, right? I get that I think he's one of those lightning rod players that might be easy to hate because he's got that personality. He was talking to Cade Cunningham the other day, and Cade Cunningham really didn't seem to even acknowledge him during that whole Pistons and Rockets part. And then Jalen, he's got a lot of flash in his game, and he's got a lot of clout. He's got a ton of clout. He had 1 million followers before he came in the NBA. So, and then goddamn Yahoo. That's once again the chair, y'all. I promise. I'm wearing pants still from last night, so that's why the chair is sounding crazy. Yeah, there was a Yahoo article probably about 2 weeks ago that had Jalen Green as the front runner for the Rookie of the Year race, which is, it was either a troll tactic or it was legitimately from a source that doesn't watch basketball at all. Because it wasn't even saying, oh, Jalen Green sucks. It's that he hasn't been close to as good as the other rookies. He just hasn't. And his team has won 1 game. So that's a team thing as well, but also if you just watch, he just has not been as good yet. But there's flashes. He's going to be good. He's got a lot of muscle to put on. He still has a kid's body right now. Like he's young, man. What is he, 19 years old? He looks every bit of 19. He's 178 pounds at 6'6". Right now he's only shooting 35% from the field, 29% from 3, but again, when you watch a Jalen Green game, it's the flashes of the athleticism. It's something like in the Lakers game where he had 2 or 3 3-pointers, I believe, at the end of the game where he almost won it. He's got a ton to learn. I saw him get like a boneheaded charge on LeBron James because he damn near tried to dunk on him or just jump through him when he was clearly in position. He's taking a lot of shots off the dribble right now, going into something off a screen that still might be contested and pulling up. He's got a lot of things to put together, but I believe that he will. And so this year he's not going to win Rookie of the Year unless he just completely just turns this all the way around and his team turns this all the way around. But the pieces are there. The pieces for him are there. The pieces for his game are there. He's going to get stronger. He's going to become a better shooter. And I think Jalen Green will end up being nice. That's all it is right now when you're looking at him as flashes. It's not like some of the other rooks. Hell, even Cade Cunningham. So it's funny because Cade Cunningham plays for the Pistons, and most people probably don't spend their days watching Pistons games. Therefore, you'll see some box scores where he hasn't shot that well. And guys, you'll tweet about Cade Cunningham, and people will be like, "Oh, he's not that good. Look at this." Like right now, he's only shooting 31% from the field, so not great. But he too is again, for me with him, it's actually a little bit more than flashes. Honestly, I watch him as a decision maker with the ball and playing at that point guard position and playing with 6'8", 220 pounds going into the chest of Kevin Durant and James Harden down low. and some of the passes that he's made. Cade is going to be good. Cade is going to be good. Also, probably not going to win Rookie of the Year this year. He's almost in the same situation as Jalen Green, but he's had some moments during games that you would have had to watch to feel good about, and not just looking at the end of a game and seeing that he maybe had 9 points and it didn't shoot well. It's that kind of thing for Cade right now, but I'm happy with what I've seen so far, considering that he's coming off of an injury and he's a rookie and he's playing in Detroit. Speaking of which, that'll happen. They'll come up in the G League section, which I might be about to get to. Yeah, because that's more or less what I wanted to say about the rookies. I didn't really touch on the Bucks much before I close off the NBA section. The G League is only going to be a little bit because there's a couple of things I just wanted to say. But didn't talk a whole lot about the Bucks. Chris Middleton's been out with COVID stuff. Brook Lopez has been out with a back. So that's basically just left Giannis to put up his numbers and then sometimes play with Thanasis at center. Grayson Allen has been a nice piece for them. So everything with Milwaukee is just let them put it all together right now and actually get on the court. And hopefully, once that happens, you'll see them maybe look like a championship or a team that just won a championship. I would hate for this to turn out like the Miami Heat the year after they won. But no, yeah, really nothing else about the Bucks. I am keeping up with the G League this year, partly because I have to. I do a show for the NBA with my co-host G, not G like as in G League, no, just Gianna. She's great. She works for them too. And having to keep up with the G League actually helps a lot because there's a lot of players that are developing and one day are going to be good for a certain team that just can't get minutes right now because the team is too deep, or they're playing between the G League and the NBA, which again, this year I think is like the best year to have to really be keeping up with that, because there'll be a night where you'll see Delano Banton from Toronto. You'll see him drop 30 in the G, and then the next day he's playing for the Raptors and he's getting actual minutes. So it's pretty cool because I never paid attention to the G League at all before, and you see like how many of these guys are in the NBA or gonna be in the NBA. So it is pretty cool, and it definitely helps with that. Like right now, I'll say specifically for the Hornets, I think that they probably do need some. Again, I was talking about Miles Plumlee earlier, and probably needing to, have something in the future, have something legitimate in his place. And I'm looking down at the G League at a guy like JT Thor. So he's young. I don't know if it's going to be this year at all, but JT likes to shoot. It's uber athletic, 6'9". Think he could end up giving the Hornets a nice small ball lineup, but it might be another year or so before it actually happens. I really don't know what their plans are with actually bringing him up, but he's looked good in the G League so far. So it's things like that I wouldn't notice at all. Like they would just be names at the bottom of a bench, and I would never see them until they just pop up one day. And so if it pans out for JT, he could be nice for the Hornets. Saben Lee, I've seen Pistons fans begging to bring him back up because he's been there before, and they're wanting him to come up in place of like a Corey Joseph or Killian Hayes. And Saben Lee is also saying, get me out of here, because he's had 2 40-point games in the G League now. He's had 2 of them things. Because it's funny, there's certain players that you look at down there and it's like, okay, they clearly don't belong here. Because as many NBA players as there are there's still a gap when they're going against somebody who's not in the NBA or hasn't been in the NBA. And so you can clearly tell who's probably should be in the NBA right now and who's still trying to get there. Like Lance Stevenson looked like Michael Jordan in his first game. I think he had like 28 points. He's doing stuff off the dribble, just freedom that he never has on an NBA team or probably never will have again. But he's cooking down there. I think he plays another game today. Brandon Knight also cooking down there. Again, there's a gap. There's a gap, man. Respect NBA players. There is a gap. But yeah, Saben Lee, I'm sure you'll see at Detroit, in Detroit at a certain point. Hell, Kyle Guy. This is a guy that played for the Kings, and you probably barely ever heard of him. He didn't really get many minutes. I think he was only there for like 2 years, and now he's playing with the Cleveland Charge. He's had 2 30-point games. Clearly an NBA talent, making good passes, but hasn't found a role in the NBA yet. That's just really what I'm noticing by watching the G so far. It's like there's a lot of guys where I guess it's just a matter of can they actually find a role on a team or on the team that they're whose affiliate they're playing for. Taco Fall had 28 points and 8 dunks the other day after his only contribution in the Cleveland game being guarding an inbound pass at the very end. Was that game Cleveland lost to? I can't even remember. I've watched so many games right now that a lot of these games I bring up, it all blends together. I can't remember whose specific moment came against. But anyways, yeah, Taco is guarding an inbound pass because there was only like a couple seconds left. So you put 8-foot Taco there so he can't see the inbound. And less than 24 hours later, he's the focal point of a Cleveland Charge team. Like that's just that's what happens when you pay attention to the G, man. That is what happens. Yeah, and then like Book Knight as well. That's somebody the Hornets picked up. It's a guard the Hornets picked up, but they're deep, so he's playing in the G, and then he goes and scores 33 points. Again, you can immediately see the guys that are clearly getting their NBA reps. Like Banton from the Raptors, I think he's going to develop nicely. He's listed as a small forward, I believe he's 6'7", but he clearly plays a lot of point guard for the Raptors as well. That is going to develop nicely. He has a very nice touch around the rim. Looks like his shot is going to develop. I think the Raptors are using that perfectly. I really like to see how these teams are actually using the G League, because you'll have a guy like Banton who you also want to develop while you can't be using him all the time on the floor, giving him like starter minutes or something. So you let him play important minutes for you, then send him down to your affiliate and let him cook. I think the Dallas Mavericks just did that with Josh Green, as a matter of fact. Josh Green is a guy who I watched some of his college highlights when he got drafted, pretty much because he was playing 2K with us with me and Halliburton, so I was curious because I didn't really know who he was. I watched his college game. I'm like, damn, he looks like he can contribute. But he's in the Mavericks, where Rick Carlisle's not playing young guys, so he didn't play pretty much at all last year. And now he's in between the Mavs and the G League. I have not had a chance to look at what he did yet, but that's just an example of what happened. So I'm learning this league still. I have a while to go. I'm learning it weekly, but that show does happen every Tuesday. No, that one's every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on YouTube. I really hope it moves to Twitch one day, because I think it would make more sense there. But either way, yeah, if you just happen to have the time, you can follow your team's developmental prospects in that league, because it is very fascinating to see them barely play. I'll tell you the funniest thing, right, just to wrap up this G section. I almost said G-spot. That makes no sense there, though. Ignore me. Luka Garza also having a good season in the G. He was putting up like 20-something points and having the rebounds. Because, he was good in college, obviously. You have to be if you're in the G League or the NBA. He's cooking in the G League. And his immediate introduction because Kelly Olynyk is hurt, so I believe the Pistons called him back up. And he immediately gets just pulverized by Jared Allen on a lob and has to clean himself up off the floor. Like, so, dominating one league, and you come in and you just get killed in the other on a highlight play. Like, those are just the things you see. Those are the funny things that you see when you keep up with both of them. Either way, that is it for the Return podcast, man. I'm at 2 hours. I think we're too early to be looking at like in-depth MVP races right now, but I've mentioned some of my thoughts on that. I went through this whole thing and really barely talked about the Washington Wizards just because I don't believe that they're going to maintain this pace. They're 9-3, but I also think they're a playoff team. They are a good team. So the Wizards, while first seed is probably a stretch, Trez is having a great season. You got Spencer Dinwiddie there. You got Kuzma, who's been good on the boards. You obviously had Bradley Beal. They're not some scrub team, but also that 9-3 is crazy. And the Wizards Cavs is something I actually sat and watched the other day. I really sat down and watched the Wizards and Cavs game in depth because there was interesting players. There's guys in development that I'm interested in right now, and they're both playing good basketball. That's where we are this season. Probably plenty of teams I didn't mention today, like really talk about Heat and Knicks, and I still got 2 hours out of it because my goal was not to talk about all 30 teams. To talk about the topics that I had. And now I'm sitting here looking at next week's podcast like, okay, well, it's going to be different because I hadn't done a podcast in like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. So we had to come in and talk about all these situations that have happened, more of a general thing. Next podcast will probably be more specific and probably more team specific and what actually happened in certain games. But there's just I had to cover a wide array of things with this brush. So I hope you enjoyed listening. This is on Spotify and Apple. I am assuming I have to remember how to do this again, but definitely on YouTube because I'm not going to go without posting these on YouTube because why? Like I really don't even use this channel that much anymore, so might as well be posting something here for the time being. Yep, this podcast will probably I'm really going to aim for every Sunday. That's my goal. I don't like posting at midnight Sunday. I don't like posting on Monday morning when y'all are on the bus to school and shit, so I'll try to aim for Sundays, but it could change. Expect it Sundays for right now. If you're watching it on the YouTube video, a like would help. If you're watching it on Spotify or Apple, some type of review would help. It's not always just going to be me talking for 2 hours. Sometimes I'll bring a guest on. The guests will vary. I don't think I'm ever going to just have one co-host again. I'll probably talk to people who I know keep up with the league a lot, and maybe they have a specific team. There's some guys I want to talk to, so maybe that'll end up bringing multiple podcasts on a week because of that, because maybe sometimes I'll just want Sunday for myself, but I also want to hear from a Knicks fan. That type of thing. Well, I definitely appreciate y'all if you're still listening to me after a year, even though I didn't post for like months. Whatever though, man. Like I said, life got crazy. You can catch me on the NBA's Twitch channel at 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, recapping the week. You can catch me on the NBA's G League channel, recapping the G League week on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Well, that's life right now. Appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one.